for our afternoon session. It's that fun time of year with the budget presentations, and we're going to look forward to them. Mr. Dehaney, if we go ahead and get going.
All right, so Mr. Mayor, members of council, before we get the first string of budget presentations going, we're going to have our planning staff give City Council a briefing on the pending planning items that will come before you on April 21. Go ahead, Caitlin, the floor is yours.
All right, good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. As the city manager just stated, I will be running through the planning items that will be up for consideration at your April 21st hearing. So there are a total of 17 items on that agenda, including consideration of the Imagine VB 2040 Comprehensive Plan. So looking first at item 1, this is a modification of Proffer's request for a parcel located at the northeast corner of the intersection of Northampton Boulevard and Premium Outlets Boulevard in District 4. This property, which is located in the Burton Station SGA, was conditionally rezoned to B2 in 2018 for the development of a 250,000 square foot retail center. The current applicant is seeking a modification of proffers to develop the northern 20 acres of the site with an approximately 244,000 square foot Veterans Administration outpatient facility. The facility will employ approximately 622 full-time employees. A total of 1,250 parking spaces are proposed to support the use, exceeding the 903 spaces required by the ordinance. A 15-foot wide landscape buffer, shown in green on the slide here, is proposed along the northern and eastern property lines adjacent to the R5D properties. Various pedestrian connections are proposed with this development, including an 8-foot wide side path along Premium Outlets Boulevard, an 8-foot wide multi-use path along the eastern and northern property lines connecting to the Lake Wright Linear Park, and a 10-foot wide multi-use path along the proposed Tolliver Road extension. As seen in the images on the slide, the building will include a mix of brick veneer, aluminum paneling, and glass. Since the building height is limited to a max of 35 feet when within 100 feet of a residentially zoned property, the applicant is requesting a deviation to allow a height of just over 64 feet. I will note that the proposed building is approximately 325 feet from the nearest single-family dwelling. A traffic impact analysis was submitted with this request and reviewed by our public works staff as well as staff with the City of Norfolk. While the average daily trips are lower than the retail-only development that was approved in 2018, the morning and afternoon peak hour traffic will be increased with this proposal. The recommendations of the traffic impact analysis include retiming of several signals along this corridor, including 2 signals in the City of Norfolk and 2 in Virginia Beach. The development is proposing a full access on Premium Outlets Boulevard at the northern edge of the site, as well as a traffic signal at the intersection of Northampton Boulevard and the Tolliver Road extension. Staff is unaware of any opposition to the request, and the Planning Commission recommended approval by unanimous vote. Item 2 is another modification of proffers for the same parcel that was discussed in the previous item. Again, this is in District 4. So this request is related to the southern 12.9 acres of the parcel, which was also included in the 2018 conditional rezoning. It is now proposed to be developed with an 81,000 square foot retail center. The modified proposal, which will be located immediately south of the VA facility discussed in item 1, includes a significant reduction in the overall retail space. 325 parking spaces are required to support the retail use, and 416 are proposed on site. As with the previous application, several pedestrian connections are included with the overall development, including a 10-foot wide shared use path along Northampton Boulevard. The images on the screen here show the renderings approved with the 2018 application, which are not subject to change with this request. And this concept plan here shows both developments together along with the proposed Tolliver Road extension. The traffic impact analysis that was discussed with item 1 included the retail development that is proposed with this application. As with the previous item, staff is unaware of any opposition, and the Planning Commission recommended approval by unanimous vote. The next 2 items include a straight rezoning and a conditional use permit for property at the northwest corner of London Bridge Road and Hornet Drive in District 5. The site is just under 4 acres and is located within the greater than 75 decibel noise zone, as well as the Special Economic Growth Area, or SEGA 2, West Oceana. The applicant is requesting a straight rezoning of the site from AG1 and AG2 to I1 Light Industrial, along with a conditional use permit for a bulk storage yard. The development will consist of 26 fenced storage lots ranging in size from 2,400 square feet to just under 5,000 square feet, and will be leased individually for the storage of equipment and materials. No buildings or on-site employees are proposed with this request.
Okay, Barbara, do you have something?
Yes. I had learned that we have no definition for light industrial. And it's just sort of up to somebody's opinion, I think. Could we look into that? Because we're having an awful lot of this come up. And I guess if there's a light industrial, we also have a heavy industrial. What's the difference? And I look at what is going up on light industrial property, and that's not heavy. I don't know what it is. So since we're really having this come up quite often, I would like us to look at this issue of what is light industrial, what is allowed there, and so forth.
Yeah, we can certainly do it.
Okay, keep going.
As you are aware, the city's ordinance requires bulk storage yards to be screened on all sides with a privacy fence and landscaping. The applicant is requesting a deviation with this request for the landscaping requirement along the northern and western edges of the storage yard in order to utilize the existing wooded area on the adjacent parcel, so you can kind of see that on the slide there. Staff was amenable to that. However, we are recommending a condition that if this is approved and should that existing wooded area be removed in the future, the applicant would need to provide the required landscaping on the site. A preliminary drainage analysis was submitted with this request, and staff determined that the proposed design had the ability to comply with the stormwater regulations. Staff has also recommended as a condition of approval to require the installation of curb and gutter, as well as a 1-foot roadway widening along London Bridge Road. Staff has not received any opposition to either request, and the Planning Commission recommended approval of both on consent. The next project also includes 2 requests. The first, a conditional rezoning from R40 residential to B2 community business, along with a conditional use permit for an indoor recreational facility, both for a portion of 5620 Parliament Drive in District 1. The gymnastics facility, Gem Strata, which is located on the adjacent parcel, is seeking to expand its parking lot onto the subject parcel, generating the need for the request. The existing facility, which is considered a legally non-conforming use, would by ordinance require 76 parking spaces. However, there are only 56 spaces currently provided on site. With this request, the applicant intends to add an additional 46 spaces for a total of 102 to serve the facility. The applicant is requesting a deviation to the Category 4 landscape buffer that's required along the eastern edge of the proposed parking lot, where this parcel will adjoin the R40 parcel. However, they are requesting that deviation since the applicant owns both parcels. Staff, again, were amenable to that, but we are recommending a condition that if that property, the R40 property, ever changes ownership, the current applicant would be required to install that buffer at that time. Staff is unaware of any opposition to this request, and the Planning Commission recommended approval of the items by consent with an additional condition that would require the proposed internal connection from the future VB Trail right-of-way to Parliament Drive to be relocated in the area shown in red there. So on the eastern side of the parking lot, that would help it align with the sidewalk that's on the south side of Parliament Drive.
Okay, Arch?
Yes, thank you. Just to clarify for me is, so I like that you added that for the shrubbery and all that stuff to do it. The parking, with adding that path to get to the trail, that's fantastic. You know, are we gonna be able to use that park? Or is there any discussion about that? Like you could park there and unload your bike, or
That was not part of this
No,
discussion.
and that would be between the owner and them allowing that.
Correct.
Thing, right? Okay. I didn't know how that was gonna. We're going to have some kind of plan about that as this goes along, right? Up and down the whole length of it, like where are people going to park, you know, because they're not going to ride from home if they don't, you know what I mean? Just something to think about. So anyway, it just came up because y'all put it in red. Thank you.
Mental note, don't use red in the future.
Well, it's good color.
All right, items.
I just got it. I just got it.
I have fun. I have fun. My wife's shaking her head.
All right, items 7 and 8, again, this is two requests, a conditional rezoning and a conditional use permit. This is for 1756 South Rosemont Road in District 10. The applicant is proposing to rezone the property from conditional O1 to conditional B2, along with a CUP for a mini warehouse facility. The parcel is just under 2 acres and is somewhat irregularly shaped. It lies within the 65 to 70 decibel noise zone and 70 to 75 decibel noise zone. It's encumbered by a 66-foot wide dominion easement as well as a 15-foot wide public utility easement, all of which constricts the building area on the site. The applicant intends to construct a 3-story self-storage facility on the property. All required parking is provided on site, and access will be limited to right-in, right-out movements only. The applicant is proposing a 6.6-foot right-of-way reservation with this proposal to accommodate the Rosemont Road Phase 5 CIP. Other improvements include curb and gutter and a raised median along Rosemont Road. The existing fencing, which abuts the residential lots at the rear of the site, will be replaced with an 8-foot-tall cedar privacy fence. While the required landscape buffers are proposed along the majority of the northern and eastern property lines adjacent to the residential and office districts, the applicant is requesting a deviation from the buffer requirements in the areas outlined in red on the slide where the buffering cannot be installed due to site constraints and existing easements. The proposed building will have a footprint of just under 19,000 square feet, a maximum height of 35 feet, and include a mix of IFAS and red brick veneer. The only exterior lighting proposed on the rear of the site, adjacent to those residential properties to the north, will be building mounted at a height of 8 feet. They'll be motion activated and shielded to direct light downward and onto the site. One letter of opposition was received with concerns regarding traffic, safety, stormwater, loss of trees, noise, and lighting. There were no speakers in attendance at the Planning Commission hearing, and the Commission recommended approval by consent. Item 9 is a CUP request for a home-based wildlife rehabilitation facility at 1212 Candlewood Drive in District 1. The applicant intends to provide care to a maximum of 5 small mammals, including squirrels, possums, and rabbits. The animals will be kept in a 120-square-foot room within the home. No public pickup or drop-off is proposed, and the animals will not be permitted to be released on the site. Staff has received 1 letter of support and 1 letter of opposition, both from adjacent neighbors. There were no speakers at the Planning Commission hearing, and the Commission recommended approval of the item by consent. Item 10 is a conditional use permit request for a multifamily dwellings at the intersection of Cleveland Street and South Witch Duck Road in District 4. The 4.7-acre site is zoned I-1 Light Industrial and lies within the Western Campus District of the Pembroke SGA. Within the Western Campus District overlay, which is an opt-in overlay, multifamily developments are permitted with a CUP. The proposed development includes a total of 160 apartment units. The units will be spread across 3 53-foot garden-style apartment buildings. The overall layout is consistent with the recommendations for the SGA, with buildings pulled towards the street and parking located in the rear. The applicant is requesting deviations to the overlay district's requirements for the build-to zone, parking setbacks, and transparency requirements along portions of the development. The development includes an internal sidewalk network that will provide connectivity throughout the site and to the existing sidewalks within the adjacent rights-of-way, as well as to pedestrian facilities that connect to the VB Trail to the south. The applicant is proposing a total of 257 parking spaces, utilizing the 1.6 spaces per unit that is permitted within the overlay. The renderings on the slide show the view from the corner of Cleveland Street and Witch Duck Road, as well as internal view of the site. As you can see in the bottom image, the units at the intersection feature large floor-to-ceiling windows and large balconies to anchor the corner of the building. Staff is unaware of any opposition to the request, and the Planning Commission recommended approval by a 10-0 vote with 1 abstention. Item 11 is a CUP request for motor vehicle sales and rentals for 4417 Shore Drive, Unit B in District 9. The applicant intends to sell and rent low-speed vehicles within an existing unit on the site. The other unit is currently occupied by a dental office. A total of 10 parking spaces are required to support both uses, and 22 spaces are provided on site. The applicant is proposing to utilize the 4 spaces nearest to Shore Drive for the display area for the low-speed vehicles. The applicant intends to provide raised planters along Shore Drive to satisfy the display area landscaping requirement. Since motor vehicle sales and rental use requires a minimum lot area of 20,000 square feet, the applicant is requesting a deviation with this request since the site is only just over 12,000 square feet. The application received support from the Bayfront Advisory Commission, and staff received 1 letter of opposition with concerns related to traffic and impacts on the neighborhood character. Ultimately, the Planning Commission did recommend approval on consent. Item 12 is an alternative compliance request for the property at the southwest corner of Pacific Avenue and 22nd Street in District 6. The property is zoned Oceanfront Resort District and is subject to the OR form-based code. Specific to the site, the code allows a maximum height of 75 feet, and the applicant is seeking approval through the alternative compliance process to increase the overall height to 110 feet. Since the property is within the 65 to 70 decibel noise zone, the applicant did have to demonstrate that an increase in height would not result in any additional density. The proposal includes a total of 131 condominium units with ground floor retail and restaurant space. The development will be supported by an internal parking structure containing 253 spaces, as well as both interior and exterior bicycle parking. An 8-foot wide sidewalk is proposed along both 21st and 22nd Street, and a 12-foot wide sidewalk is proposed along Pacific. Additionally, a 15-foot wide right-of-way dedication is proposed along Pacific Avenue. I do want to make note of 2 quick things. So a separate cafe franchise agreement will be required for the proposed outdoor dining area, and then an encroachment agreement granted by this body will be needed for the exterior stairs on the townhomes along 22nd Street. The building elevations substantially conform to the OR design guidelines, and the proposal received unanimous support from the Resort Advisory Commission's Planning Design Review Committee. While staff did receive 1 letter of opposition from an adjacent neighbor noting concerns with privacy and construction impacts, the Planning Commission ultimately recommended approval by a unanimous vote with an added condition to require the applicant to include a prohibition of short-term rentals within the condominium documents for the development. Item 13 is an ordinance to adopt the Imagine VB 2040 Comprehensive Plan to supersede the 2016 Comprehensive Plan. As you have received several briefings recently from Director Warren and Hank Morrison, I'm not going to go into great detail here. However, I do want to note a few items. So the first is a housekeeping item to change the proposed Shore Drive North Great Neck Center, which is shown on the slide here. As you'll recall from those briefings, type 1 neighborhoods, which are exclusively single-family neighborhoods, were intentionally excluded from being included in centers. It was noticed by staff recently that for this particular center, portions of a type 1 neighborhood was included, so we're just proposing to remove that with this. So the new boundary of this center would be what is shown in red on the slide there. This is coming to you with a recommendation for approval from the Planning Commission with a few modifications, including additional references to broadband infrastructure and manufactured housing, as well as a recommendation to change the green line context area to the courthouse context area, and references to the blue line to be changed to the rural area boundary with blue line in parentheses. Item 14 is an ordinance to amend numerous sections of the zoning ordinance to update all references to the 2016 Comprehensive Plan to reflect the Imagine VB 2040 Comprehensive Plan. Similar to that previous item, item 15, this is an ordinance to amend section 16-43 of the City Code, again to reflect the Imagine VB 2040 Comprehensive Plan.
Barbara?
I understand that there were 3 amendments to the comprehensive plan that were just introduced the day it was adopted and had not been given to the planning commissioners before then, certainly not to the public. But I think one of those amendments, it was characterized that it was a request of city council, the one that would change the green line context area to the courthouse context area. I just remember a very brief discussion we had at this table And I remember objecting to that. So I don't know how it became a direction from city council that this be done. At least that was the impression the planning commissioners had. So I want a transcript, a verbatim of that conversation we had regarding the context area title.
Okay.
All right, item 16 is an ordinance to remove and eliminate the Nemo Church Historic and Cultural District. So before I get into the specifics of this request, I just wanted to provide a little bit of background info on historic and cultural districts, or HCDs more generally. So a historic and cultural district is a zoning overlay that is approved by the city council with input from property owner or property owners. While the state and national register districts are honorary in nature and do not impact an owner's ability to make exterior changes to a property, exterior changes in a local historic and cultural district do require an additional level of review. With that being said, HCDs are not intended to prevent change, just to ensure that the historical character and integrity of a site or a structure is maintained as change occurs. Virginia Beach has a total of 16 historic and cultural districts, 15 of which, including the Nemo Church HCD, includes only one single historic building, and 6 of those are city-owned. There are 2 primary city council appointed agencies that are involved in the city's historic preservation program. The first, the Historic Preservation Commission, or HPC, was established to preserve, protect, and maintain the historic identity of the city, while the Historical Review Board, or the HRB, is tasked with reviewing and approving certificate of appropriateness requests, or COAs, for exterior changes within an HCD. This could include new construction, demolition, or changes proposed to the exterior of a structure or site. This does not include any changes proposed to the interior of a building. There are also certain changes that can be done administratively through a staff exception process. That is typically repair and maintenance items using like materials and colors. I will note that if the Historical Review Board denies a COA, the applicant does have the opportunity to take that, or to appeal the denial to this body. Now to get to the specifics of the current request, the Nemo Church HCD was established in 1980 and expanded in 1986 as a part of the General Booth Extension Project. The church was originally constructed in 1791 and expanded in the 1840s, with the steeple and tower, which is seen on the front there, added in the 1890s. While multiple COAs have been issued since the district was established, there are no current applications under review by the Historical Review Board. The Royal Farms, which was also located in the district, it was constructed in 2023 and was required to get a COA prior to construction. So during that review process, the HRB did make several design and material recommendations, all of which were agreed to by the Royal Farms. I will note that the Historic and Cultural District does not govern uses that are within the district. It's solely looking at what that development looks like. So the use is still governed by the underlying zoning district. 3 letters of opposition have been received related to this request, including one from the Historic Preservation Commission, one from the Historical Review Board, and one from a nearby property owner. There were 8 speakers at the Planning Commission hearing, equally split between support and opposition. Ultimately, the Planning Commission did vote to recommend denial of this request by a vote of 8-3. And then the final item.
Because it's very important, but also very difficult. I think I have heard somewhere along the line, and maybe it was when we were looking at another application, that it was said that cost could not be a consideration. You can't help but have cost as a consideration. And when we require something that's going to cost almost $1 million, that's significant. And I think if it's because the city wants something to be a historic museum-like structure, we're going to have to participate. And I think that there's probably money available around many different places for grants for this kind of thing, whether they're federal or state or whatnot. I think there's some thought that the state was adding some money to this. Could we have, as you're researching this, if there are possibilities that we as the city could participate with them in helping them get some of this money that's supposedly out there for historic preservation, for issues such as this, because historic preservation is very, very difficult. And I notice in reading our comprehensive plan draft several times mentioning that there are probably a number of sites around the city that should be historic districts or in the historic districts, but they're not. Well, I can tell you why they're not. People can't afford it. They can't afford to do the kinds of maintenance and structure that is historic. And so folks can't afford to put their properties in a historic district. And I always understood that it was voluntary. So I really think this whole issue of cost has got to be a part of it. I know that I have a structure that should be in a historic district. I can't afford it. I couldn't afford to do the maintenance on it. And I think we really have to look at that cost. And if we are going to require it, we've got to have some mechanism for assistance to allow people to be able to do what is being required. A congregation that's not real large can't do their mission if they are going to be required to maintain a structure that is museum quality. They can't do it. So I really think we have to look at this and see if there's not some way we can work things out to assist in this situation, but then could be applied to other situations. Because if people are going to be able to put their properties in a historic district voluntarily, then they're going to be required to maintain them to that level, and that gets very expensive and very costly. And so I think we're hurting ourselves if we're not coming up with some mechanism to assist with this.
Rosemary?
I wanted to mention that Delegate Askew and Senator Lucas both put in the state budget $500,000 from Nemo Church. Now, we all know that the budget hasn't been passed yet, but we all need to remain hopeful that it stays there. And if anybody would like to contact their legislators to let them know how important it is to maintain the integrity of this very, very historical piece of property. And I know part of what was being considered was putting vinyl siding on this church, which it's kind of hard for me to imagine. But anyway, it's been put in both sides, so hopefully it stays in there when they vote on it. And they don't take it out when they're looking for money for other things. So let's hope that $500,000 stays in there for Nemo Church.
Okay, Hutch, Stacy, Jennifer, Barbara.
So, like a lot of us, we've been contacted about this, and it is, for me growing up, it's it was the gateway to Sandbridge, right? You knew when you got the Nemo that you were getting close to Sandbridge coming from Kempsville. But the two things for me, and Ms. Henley, I'm not sure, who's accurate on this and who's not, but I've been told that a majority of the congregants don't favor taking it out of the historical district, and that the price that's been floated by some is way overstated, that the clapboard is nowhere near what $1 million to be fixed. I don't know that. I'm not a construction guy, but that's what I was told. So I definitely want us to wait, as the vice mayor said, to see if this $500,000 is going to come in. They made it sound like that was going to certainly cover all of what they needed to be done and more, is how I was told. I don't know that for it to be a factual, but I just think for the age and what this church has meant to us in the city forever, for longer than any of us, I just think we need to be real careful before we take it out. And I'm not normally a huge supporter of that, to be quite honest, but in this one, I think it is like a gateway for us, and it's such an icon that it does matter, and it's still in use. So I think that also matters.
Okay, Stacy, Jennifer, Barbara.
There are synthetic materials, for instance, there's synthetic slate roofs that have 100% the appearance of a natural slate roof. And are there allowances made for those types of items to be used?
So there have been discussions very recently between leadership with the church and leadership for the Historical Review Board and staff. And so there were conversations that for the main church and the steeple in particular, it's a character defining feature where you would want the historically appropriate materials. But for some of these later additions that don't have the same level of kind of historical significance, it could be more appropriate to use some sort of more modern material. And then you could potentially use the existing siding, wood siding that's on those portions of the church. If it's in good material or in good condition, you could have that kind of as a backup for the historic portion of the structure. So there is some ability to kind of discuss with the Historical Review Board and the potential to use different materials.
Thank you.
Okay, Jennifer and Barbara.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm playing catch up a bit, so I look forward to reading the transcript, but I'm just curious how this came to be a request. And it sounds like it's the funding dynamics, just the cost of maintaining all of this. So I get like the expectation of if we want to preserve the historic nature, but if the organization itself is saying this is unsustainable, how then can we say you have to do it anyway? It makes me think of the unfunded mandates that we have to deal with, that we put this burden on this building that at least maybe some within the organization are saying we can't do this. So the church is asking for this?
Correct. It came from the church through, down through the city to us. There is no, as I mentioned, there's no current ask or request, a proposal under review by the Historical Review Board. So the city's not requiring them to do anything, but they have made several certificate of appropriateness requests to the city in recent years, several of which have been approved. There was one, a welcome center, that was proposed in front of the steeple of the church, and it was a more modern design, so that the Historical Review Board did recommend denial for. We did have conversations with the church that they could appeal that denial to the city council. Ultimately, that did not move forward, but the majority of the COA requests in recent years have been approved, and that's why we wanted to have the conversation between the church staff and the Historical Review Board to get a better understanding of what the church's current ask is so that we could have something to respond to.
Hey, Barbara.
I thought it looked like Jennifer was getting ready to say something else.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Of course, our buildings here, we're in a historic district, and it costs the city a whole lot more money every time we do something to our buildings. As a matter of fact, I think we decided not to have a slate roof. And I mean, just because this facility has to meet the Historic Review Board's requirements too, and it bumps the cost up considerably, and I think we need to look at that. But also, my thinking is that I had always been under the impression that for a facility to be in a historic district, it was voluntary. I'm assuming that's not right then. Is that?
So there would have been discussions with the property owner or owners at the time that the request to create the historic and cultural district was brought before the city council. So once it's approved by city council, it's a zoning overlay. It's part of the zoning ordinance and the official zoning map. So it would require approval by this body to have either any changes to it or to be removed.
Councilmember Henley, it's my understanding that the property owner has to acquiesce or bring it forward in order to end up to get their building in the district. Yeah.
It gets pretty complicated, but, well, I know when we're talking about Nimmo Church, are we talking about the congregation or are we talking about the building? They're two entirely different things. Of course, the congregation is one of the oldest in the city, back to 1791, and nobody can take away the fact that they're one of the oldest congregations. But when you're maintaining the building, then that's something very different. And for a church to be in that situation, that's kind of tough. So anyway, I was just hoping we might be able to help them identify some grant monies that's out there to assist with this. I mean, I think the state money is wonderful. I hope that all comes through, but they're going to need additional money from that too. So maybe there's some out there that we can help with.
Okay, Jennifer.
Just a point of clarification, it's voluntary to enter the program. If they wanted to leave, it's more complicated.
It wouldn't take an act of council. Yeah, so from my understanding, like, for example, the buildings here, council had to put these buildings in that district. For us to come out of it, the council would have to take us out of the district. When we have had issues, I think with the courthouse, when we went to make an improvement there, and also to Ms. Henley's point, when the cost of slate was so much more expensive than the synthetic material, we went through the process, got denied by the respective boards, and then we went to city council, and city council granted us a waiver, so we could use more synthetic and more affordable material that had a look, but not necessarily the same material that was done at the time when the building was constructed.
Hey, Barbara and Hush.
If I could make one more comment. At one time, I was council liaison to the Historic Review Board. And if you all recall, I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't sit there and require these people to spend so much money. I had to say, I'm not going to be this liaison.
Hey, Hush.
So just also to clarify for me, from what I was told, is that the board did not ask the congregation if they wanted to come forward with this. I was told that by three different people. That was one part here. So I do think the board should be responsive to their congregants. And then number two, that as you just stated, with the different materials, that is going to cost that no matter whether they're in historical or not. If they can use the clapboard, I think is what the term is, what they said, is that's going to be what the price is, whether they're in the historical or not. So if they have to do that work, that has no bearing on whether that's what I was kind of explained. So I don't know if you can elaborate on that or not. No. I don't blame you.
Good answer. Okay, moving on.
All right, the final item, this is an ordinance to add section 208.1 to the city zoning ordinance. This is pertaining to the regulation of roll-off containers. So this ordinance would allow staff to regulate roll-off containers in residential districts. With this ordinance, one roll-off container would be permitted for a maximum of 30 days within a 6-month period. The ordinance would also allow for a roll-off container to be placed on a site during periods of permitted construction activity, as well as 24 hours before and after that construction activity begins and ends. This was presented to the Coastal Virginia Building Industry Association, or CVBIA, and they were supportive of the request. And it did pass Planning Commission with a positive recommendation by unanimous vote. And Mayor, that concludes my briefing.
Any other questions? Thank you very
Thank you.
much. You folks put a lot of hard work into this.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Okay, we are ready.
All right, so Mr. Mayor, members of council, this starts on the kickoff of the budget presentation to City Council, and this one is going to take a different approach as it relates to how we get the presentation. It's more consolidated and condensed with the hopes of giving City Council enough information so that it can stimulate a conversation amongst the council. The first presentation will come from Director of ECCS, Jada Lee, and she'll talk about emergency communications and citizen services budget requests for fiscal year 26-27.
Welcome, Dave.
Good afternoon, Mayor Dyer, Vice Mayor Wilson, members of council. As City Manager Duhaney said, my name's Jada Lee. I am the Director of Emergency Communications and Citizen Services. Today, I'm going to take just a few moments of your time to walk through the current programs and initiatives that ECCS presented during our budget discussions with the City Manager and City leadership. So, some of our trends and issues, the 911 profession, as it stands today, is very different than the 911 profession was 30 years ago when I started my career. And one of the greatest impacts to the 911 community today is the use of AI. And we have been using an AI tool on the front end of our non-emergency and administrative calls. for about a year and a half, going on 2 years, and it has shown to alleviate some of those non-emergency calls that typically had to be handled by a live call taker. By reducing the number of non-emergency calls, then we are able to focus more on the 911 call taking for our callers and citizens. So how do we use it? So the AI is able to learn our business processes, and it is able to assist callers and provide them with redirection to meet their needs. The other piece here is about our recruitment and retention. So many of these items are covered in our department performance plan that we meet regularly with the manager to discuss. One of the biggest struggles today, not just in Virginia Beach, but across the entire country, is a lack of staffing in the 911 centers. Everyone still today struggles with staying relevant, ensuring that our pay is competitive. So 2 years ago, we began hiring bonuses because our partners in the region were offering hiring bonuses to their staff. We also have a recruitment bonus that we offer to our current staff, right? So who do you want to see sit next to you? So if they bring someone in and they're successful, then our current staff, they receive a bonus as well. One of the other things that I've been doing to assist with retention is I hold a quarterly fireside chat with a representative from each division in ECCS. And during those meetings, we talk about everything from policy review and implementation, our new strategic plan, any other suggestions or thoughts that they might have to make people want to stay with us. I also hold quarterly stay interviews with every single member of our department. I want to know what makes you keep coming to work every day, and what are the 2 or 3 things that would make you want to leave the department and the city. We also have a very robust recognition program that is run completely by staff. So they use that to recognize each other, bring positivity to the workplace, boost morale. They hold events after hours for staff and their families so that everyone can get together and spend time. Lastly here, Watch Desk. Watch Desk was introduced last year during our budget presentation. We now have hired a Watch Desk supervisor, and he is doing amazing work. One of the many things that they do for us is they handle emergency alerting, they monitor the municipal campus cameras, and they work closely with emergency management security and emergency management. And on a side note, since we implemented the Watch Desk, our EOC is always at a level 1, meaning they are monitoring and they are ensuring that if something does occur, they are ready to respond and to act. So what were some of our major budget changes or asks for this year? As I spoke briefly about our AI, we have recently acquired a new AI software that is going to be a game changer for the city of Virginia Beach. This AI software is going to review 100% of every call that is received into the 911 center, whether it's a 911 call, non-emergency, administrative call, to ensure that we're meeting the expectations of our citizenship. And I can tell you, I have 33 years of experience in this profession. And, you know, people talk about AI, they talk about AI. This is the first software that I've seen that I said, this is going to be a game changer. Not only is it going to help with our quality assurance, it is also going to help us streamline our training processes. Currently today, we have to meet certain state standards for our new recruits. And it takes 4 to 5 full-time employees, 2 to 3 weeks to get them through that certification process. This software is going to allow us to build scenarios into the system so that we can have one employee provide the exact same training to all of our recruits at the exact same time. That is a game changer for the 911 industry, and I can't say enough about it. This platform will also provide notifications to the 911 supervisors. So if an employee does take a critical call, that call is automatically flagged to the 911 supervisor so that they're able to follow up with that employee and ensure that they're doing well. Let's see. The next thing here is a transfer from the Water and Sewer Fund. So since 2018, we have received a budget transfer because our 311 division handles all of the public utilities calls after hours, nights, and weekends. So there was a lot of discussion about, is that figure still accurate? And based on discussions with the budget office, our department, public utilities, this will be the first time that there will be an increase in that budget transfer from $83,424 to $141,396. And then there will also be a 3% increase each fiscal year to ensure that we're keeping up with the work and the man hours that are required to handle that. And then lastly, I talked briefly about vacancies across the nation, vacancies in Virginia Beach. Our budget was reduced by 7 full-time employees this year due to the longevity of the vacancies that they were holding. So as you all are aware, we carry vacancies every year. We carry vacancies. It's a hard to fill position. So one of the things that we are doing is we have an academy that's slated to start July the 9th. I currently have 7 vacancies outside of the 7 that were reduced in the budget. We hope to fill those for our July academy. But one thing that we are doing that is a little bit different is, have you all heard of traveling nurses? Well, there are now traveling dispatchers. And we have contracted with a company that will send us 8 experienced dispatchers, call takers, who are used to working in high volume, large public safety answering points to help to close the gap for us over the summer. We struggle. We can bring in 7, but I can't take 7 people off the floor to train. So having these traveling dispatchers in place, it's going to help us to train our current staff that still needs training, and our 7 that are coming in, they will have an opportunity to get full-time training. We won't have to stop it due to gaps. So those are the major things that we discuss with the manager and the city leadership team during our budget hearing. I was very pleased about the water and sewer increase, and I can go on and on and on forever about the AI and the platform that we are implementing. And if you want to know more, let me know. Next week is Public Safety Telecommunicator Week. That is a national program that we thank our dispatchers for the hard work that they do. They are the unseen heroes of public safety. They are the first of the first responders. And if you have an opportunity, I invite you over to the center to come say thank you for the work that they do tirelessly. Questions?
Okay, Hutch, Jennifer.
So you touched on it. Well, for starters, Director Lee, thank you for being here and getting us kicked off with the budget season. I don't know if the first spot's an enviable one, but we appreciate it.
It's the first time. I was the first of the first.
Yeah, good deal. You haven't actually lost position, not lost. I don't know exactly what we're calling it. Took them.
Reduced.
Yeah, we've reallocated for right now.
I like that.
Well, I don't really believe that, because that was one of the things I was gonna say, is because you also gave up a bunch last year,
Yes,
correct? How many?
17.
17. So we're at 24. Now, I know, like you're saying, there's things that are helping with that, and you're doing it. But it is still my understanding that if you can get folks hired, that we're to look hard, and the manager's shaking his head, that we're going to refill those positions for you as best we can.
That is correct.
Okay?
As long as we can hire them,
Yeah.
retain them, then that will be a conversation that I will come back to the manager with to request an overhire of some of those positions that were decreased.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we'll support you on that. So
Thank you.
feel certain of it. Okay, thank you.
Hey, Jennifer and Cash.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Lee. It's good to see you
Good to
today.
see you.
I had two questions, one about AI and one about recruitment and retention. And I'm actually looking in the budget because I was seeing if I could answer my own question here. And the first was about AI. I see my campus dean from TCC, Virginia Beach, so we know all about like AI in the classroom and how do you try to manage it. And we teach our students, use it as a tool, but it's not always accurate. And so you have to ensure that the information that you're taking in is appropriate, that it's useful, and that it's correct. And so I was wondering, particularly because you're in emergency services, how you are safeguarding against inaccuracies. Looking in the budget document, it seems like, as you've mentioned, the use of this tool is to free up staff to get to core 911 operations, where AI, and I'll just read in part, it says, it will aid in identifying performance insights, trends, compliance monitoring by partially automating the quality assurance review process. And so instead of staff, human labor working on quality assurance and training, human labor will go to 911 core operations, and AI will
We'll review
Okay.
the calls. Now, when we implement this product, it has to continue to learn. So we will load all of our policies and procedures into the software, and it will continue to learn. It will learn each of our call takers' baseline. So if their baseline goes up or their baseline goes down, or if they're not meeting the mark in each of the call taking protocols, it's going to flag that. And in the beginning, we are going to have to ensure that it is capturing the quality assurance appropriately. At the end of the day, it's a software. So there's still a bit of a human component. And I don't want to belabor this, but right now, it takes 4 people to do quality assurance. 4 people, 4 full-time employees. That's a lot, and it's all manual, and it's cumbersome. And I need to reallocate those people to core services.
And then finally, recruitment and retention. You mentioned having some of these conversations with folks. Why do they stay, or why would they leave? Any themes you can share with us?
So the greatest theme is I never want to leave. I love this job. I love being a part of the public safety family. Our staff has dealt with tragedy just like the police department has, and along with EMS and fire. And that tragedy has brought closeness to the staff that is working today. And they feel like they truly make a difference every single day. And they recognize that the job that they do is bigger than them. And I hear that theme all the time. I'm part of the public safety family. The job I do is bigger than me. And if I help one person every day, they're fulfilled. It's pretty deep. And I have a very young staff. And for them to recognize that out of the tragedy that was experienced last year, it really does show the work that we've been doing. I have to say, the work that me and my leadership team have been doing with the staff, being transparent, having that open communication. We've made some changes in our reporting structure that are paying huge dividends to us today, and staff is so appreciative. Yes.
Councilman Rosemary.
Thank you. I'll be quick. Director Lee, thank you for your presentation. And you had to make some structural changes. I hear it, I see it. It's always something for us as a council to consider changes when it's dealing with 911, right? That's our lifeline to our community. So this council, I know, is very amenable to the things that you may need. And AI, right? I'm a big fan of AI because sometimes there's repeated necessary calls and we need to have the system and structure in place. So I'm picking up what you're putting down. I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That's it.
Well, Mr. Manager, I think this format, I know this is only the first one we've seen, is really, really nice. And Jada, the way you care about your job is just really heartwarming that you're so devoted and you try to take some really difficult areas to make it work one way or the other, and some really out-of-the-box thinking. You really need to be commended for what you have done with, and when somebody calls 911, they expect somebody to answer. That's why they're calling 911. They're in a dire strait. There's something that's really something. I watch some of the real crime TV, and when they call, it can be some really tough situations. So
Exactly.
I just want to thank you for what you and your team does, and hopefully some people watching this might say, that might be a good career for me, and maybe you might get some recruits from today. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, Jada, I just want to say you're amazing. Your staff is amazing. And one of the things that I and this council always recognizes when we talk about Virginia Beach being the safest city in the country in a very, very large measure, you are definitely part of that equation. It all starts with you. And it's amazing to think in my 21 years, I think I mentioned to you when I first started here, I think everybody of your employees had little 2 screens. Mm-hmm. And now what are you up to, 6 and 8 screens?
8.
Eight
Every
screens.
position has 8.
And if you ever want a dynamic tour, fellow council folks, go over and see what they do, what they have to navigate, from routine calls about cats and trees to, crisis.
Yes.
And crisis management, and it's stressful, and but once again, you set the tone there, and once again, we'll look forward to coming to see you next week and recognize your staff, and I invite everybody on council, come see what these folks do. It is amazing, and thank you. God bless you, and
Thank you.
keep on doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much. You all have a great week.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, the next presentation will be provided by EMS Chief Jason Stroud. He's going to talk to City Council about the proposed fiscal year 26-27 operating budget for EMS.
Welcome, Jason.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members, Council, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I guess if I could say real quick, Jada certainly set the bar, right? With the, and so I caught that, Vice Mayor. I'll try to do my best. But I also would like to say, again, recognize that certainly Jada's team is the first of the first responders, and truly none of us can do our job if she doesn't have the resources to do hers. And so it is a team approach, but it truly starts with Jada. And so we're all very appreciative of that. I would also say that since you're meeting with ECCS, EMS, and the police department today, the 3 of us have talked, and any available extra resources, we'll figure out how to split, and we'll let Chief Kravitz know. So also, if I could real quick, because my presentation is down to 2 slides, which I think you'll appreciate, but I don't want to miss the opportunity to identify who joined me today, because we're going to be talking about our compassionate billing program, I'm sure. And that wouldn't be possible if you all didn't set that up for us this last year, but also if the staff that didn't then build it out. So if I could just real quick, our EMS business manager, Mariana Twisdale, is here with me. our EMS accountant, Christy Carlson, and our billing coordinator, Veronica Baker's with us, and my executive assistant, Jordan Yates. But certainly these are the unsung heroes that are behind the scenes making sure this is all done. They put this budget together and build out the revenue source to be able to fund a lot of it. So with that, my triad of issues, if you will, continue to concentrate on staffing, having adequate staffing, an adequate ambulance fleet, and adequate facilities. We've made a lot of headway over the last several years, and so those efforts certainly have paid dividends. We have currently 118 uniformed providers that contribute to daily ambulance staffing, and so that's certainly come a long way. I will tell you, when we look at trying to staff one ambulance for every 3,000 calls out of 59,000 calls for service annually, our goal is to get upwards of 20 ambulances during our busiest daytime period, and then we can drop down to 18, 17 at night. In order to do that, we still need an additional 32 employees, uniformed employees, to contribute towards ambulance staffing. You'll see in our budget request to be funded by our compassionate billing program, we are including a request to add 10 of those 32 positions towards that staffing. And the reason we're asking for 10 and not 32 is we want to make sure we're incremental and measured. And so we certainly don't want to add more than necessary as we continue to build our volunteer, or try to build our volunteer ranks. We also want to make sure we don't exceed the capacity of the compassionate billing fund. So again, we're requesting to add 10 uniform staff positions to help with ambulance staffing. We are in a good spot. There's no staffing crisis. But in order to continue to provide, to meet our goals and provide employees with the shift experience that they deserve and the community with the best responses feasible, we still will spend probably the next couple of years coming back with additional requests. In terms of an ambulance fleet, we're doing very well there as well. And again, that's because of the investment you all have made. The good news is, an update even since this was put together, because of some of the work that the rescue squads have done, we're actually, we are on pace to have a fleet of 47 ambulances with what is currently here and that has been ordered. So that, I hesitate to say that should get us where we need. That gets us where we need until one gets out of service or gets damaged. But we are in a good place there. Recently, we completed some work with the Rescue Council to have a third-party firm come in and do an assessment of our fleet. I believe in just the last several weeks that was included in your packet. The nice thing about that, the Rescue Council, we were able to get the Rescue Council buy-in and agreement to endorse a policy for me to develop that would require if any ambulance is going to be purchased with the use of public funds, to purchase, operate, or maintain, that ambulance be one that meets our standardization requirements. And so we look for that to help significantly with our maintenance downtime, as well as, if we're able to train everybody to operate the same ambulance platform, we hope that cuts down on kind of bumping into some stuff, and parts availability should be streamlined, et cetera. So again, ambulance fleet is a really good spot. The thing I also want to mention with that, that Rescue Council support was extremely important and necessary. It's also with the caveat that the rescue squads should continue to purchase and own the ambulances and maintain the ability to identify them, have that pride and ownership in their identity, have their markings on the ambulances, et cetera. And so it's quite a partnership and investment that the city's been able to benefit from. And then also, finally, the EMS station facilities. This is probably, if I would have to say kind of what's next, what's the next thing, it's where we're at with our station facilities. We operate out of 17 facilities in the city, 13 of which are shared fire and EMS facilities. 3 are owned by rescue squads, and 1 is the standalone EMS station at Thalia. The thing is, with a majority of our shared fire and EMS facilities, they were built at a time when there was just volunteer rescue squads, and in many ways where members just responded from home on pagers, and never considering the idea that there would be 24/7 staffing there. And so we're busting at the seams. So every night I have to house 3 people in one room that's meant for one person, and that's standard in some of our older stations that were built in we have some built, I think, 50 years old. And so that's I'd say a looming issue for us to kind of tackle. Chief Pravitz and I have discussed this in detail, and I look forward to collaborating with him and working with him in hopes of being able to get to develop and deliver an adequate facility needs assessment to give us a strategic roadmap there. So the good thing is my general fund budget portion that I submitted is within target, and then any additional resources or programs that I sought to add, we're able to self-fund through the restricted special revenue fund of the Compassionate EMS Billing Program. So that program is fully operational. It's up and running and fully operational. We started July 1. You approved that in last year's budget ordinance vote. And I would say we're at a point now where it's running as it should. We projected, our consultant, when we did a billing study, projected that we would earn in the realm of $14.5 million for the year. I would say we feel comfortable that that's a target that is realistic. We won't really know until we do it for a full year. And the reason being is while we're seeing some stabilized revenue each month of about 1.2 to 1.3 million each month, what does impact that is the time of the year. So the last months of last year, we saw more revenue, but as we start a new year, those high deductible healthcare plans, people haven't met their deductible, and we don't charge copays or co-deductibles. And so we look for maybe some of that revenue to dip in those months, but we do feel comfortable that we're on pace to hit that target in the $14 million realm. We left our projections for this next fiscal year relatively flat because of unknown impacts from the big beautiful bill as it relates to Medicare and Medicaid funding. And so industry experts recommended budgeting revenue flat just because that's somewhat unknown at this time. So our budget request, like I mentioned before, we're looking to add 10 uniformed positions. These will directly help with ambulance staffing. We will deploy them to the shifts. We operate on an A, B, C, D 4-shift rotation. So we would put 2 on each shift. And then the 9th and 10th, we have demand staffing on 12-hour day shifts. We would put them there. That helps ambulance staffing. It helps give us additional leave capacity for the leave our employees are earning. Also, we provide paramedic support to different special operations programs, including the police department SWAT team, civil disturbance response team, marine medic programs, et cetera. And I would say that's relatively almost a daily occurrence. We're having to pull somebody off staffing to go to one of those activities. And so by adding these staff members, we looking for that to give us some depth so that it doesn't impact the staffed ambulances that day. And finally, just a note on this slide, well, I'm sorry, let me back up real quick. That's 10 employees I accounted for. We're also looking to add a fleet and facilities coordinator. It would be a civilian position. This was with the endorsement of the Rescue Council. This would be somebody to, because our ambulance fleet is going to be upwards of 47 ambulances, plus in addition, we have a bunch of SUVs, jet skis, ATVs, pickup trucks, et cetera. Just the day-to-day coordination of that fleet, making sure the preventative maintenance gets done on schedule, getting trucks to and from, et cetera, is pretty intensive. And so it would be a position to coordinate all that. It's also a position to develop standardized ambulance specifications with the Rescue Council work group and administer that. And then we did include a 12th position, an administrative position to try to bolster and help the vitality of the volunteer rescue squad portion of our service. We still have a little bit of work to do to figure out exactly what that title or workload may be, but essentially a placeholder for that sort of effort. And then finally, just that table's in there somewhat as a reminder for when we approved the billing program last year that it was agreed to with some allocations and some distributions back to the rescue squads. So 30% of the funds are going directly back to the rescue squads. That's about 4.3 million. And so they're using that to make their loan payments for any loans that were made in just the recent years, also to maintain a future replacement cycle of ambulances and buy uniforms for their people and items that they need to conduct their business day to day and other things such as that. So with that, that is all I have prepared. Any questions?
Chief, I got a couple for you. I'll get to the copay and deductibles in a minute, but first, I read the the report from the staff, y'all, that y'all had done. And a couple of them stuck out to me. And it's the fleet standardization. Are we moving that direction or are we not moving that direction?
Oh, we are moving that direction. So
Okay.
it will include standardized chassis.
It's conceptual here, and that's why I just wanted to make sure. So we've moved past conceptual.
We've got the commitment.
All right, cool. Because I was going to say if that was it, like, why not? And then the replacement cycles, is that, when we're talking about that and vary, is that just because one's a limit and one's not, or different things, or what's your reason for that?
So it varies because essentially we're operating 10 individual fleets as one system.
Yeah.
And so because it's very important, and I'm not understating this, like each squad to maintain their identity,
Sure. Oh, yeah, I want to do that.
we do not have the opportunity to move trucks around, to put one down in the county so it can accumulate mileage slower while this one accumulates faster. So that's.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
There's somewhat of an increased cost with that, but in the big scheme, it's a big savings.
Yep, I get it. And then one thing I wanted to ask you was, and I'm going to need some help on this. When sorry, I can't have a hard time losing that. I can't help it. The downgrading, when you took and changed one of what was that again? What was that one on that you downgraded some of the calls?
So essentially those calls that are triaged as priority 2, which are lower acuity, we stopped allowing the routine use of red lights and sirens to respond to those. And essentially what we saw from that, and that followed some industry best practices across the country. And what we saw from that was an additional 2 to 3 minutes on our average response times. But however, we also saw that there was no impacts to patient outcomes.
Right.
And lower accident rate as well.
Well, that's what I was back to back to not having them as long as part of that is when you have the accidents. And that typically across the country, when you have a call might be put out as a priority 1, but by the time we're done and we relook at it, it's probably a priority 2, priority 3 call sometimes, right?
Yes, sir. And I think it's important for those that are listening to just remind everybody, we did allow our EMS supervisors to retain the ability to upgrade that should they read comments that warranted so.
For sure. And then the last thing is that you touched on it. Well, it's a 2-part question. One is okay, so hopefully the compassionate building is going to work. So you were saying that we're on target to get to the 14 million-ish range. And then I'm not saying we're going to do anything with this. I'm just asking a question to see where we're at. Is like copay and co-deductibles and all that, do we have a number there that you could speak to?
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying we're even thinking about doing
understood.
it. I'm just asking to be clear.
So it looks like on an annualized basis, we're on track to bill out about $27 million in services grossly. We're collecting about $14 million. We anticipate the resident write-off portion, since we do not charge copays or co-deductibles of residents, will be in the realm of $6 million or more.
Okay.
And we know that because for the last 4 months or for the latter half of 2025, for a 4-month period, it was 1.9 million. If we annualize it, it's 5.7. But we also know, like right now, January, February, March, April, people have not met their deductibles, so we recover less because we're not charging them deductibles. So it's at least 6 million, if not more.
Okay, thank you.
Cash, did you have something?
No.
Okay, Amelia.
Thank you so much, Chief.
Thank you.
What I gathered, you're asking for 23
No, ma'am, 12.
Well,
12.
that's also the, you mentioned about the police coordinator, one, and then 12 admin.
So it's 12 positions, 10 of which are paramedic positions. One is a fleet and facilities coordinator, and the 12th is an administrative position to help us bolster volunteer services and some of our clinical programs. So it's a civilian position in the office.
Okay. And then you also mentioned about having to have 3 in the room sometime.
Yes, ma'am.
Talk to us about that.
Sure. So in some of the shared fire and EMS facilities, the ones that quickly come to mind is Davis Corner, Haygood, Kempsville Station 9, and there's certainly some others. We have, the bunk rooms are relatively the same size, and so fire utilizes them to typically put a person in each room. we find that we have to have a set of bunk beds and a twin bed in the room because we have 2 people staff the ambulance, plus we have a trainee or intern usually as the third. Honestly, a good deal of times our providers are sleeping on sofas in the TV rooms. One, out of convenience, because they're a lot busier at night, and so they just get an hour or 2 here or there. But 2, because they want to spread out from each other.
Miss Home. Thank you.
Hey, anybody else? No, Chief, once again, we are so grateful to you, and I tell you what, the progression that you're making is incredible when you consider, the size growth. But once again, the silver tsunami is on us. We are an aging city, and quite frankly, I'm one of the leaders of the silver tsunami, 3/4 of the century here. But, once again, as elderly, it really puts a lot of strain. Whether you talk about falls or just medical calls or, things of that nature. And I'm just delighted to see the interaction that you're having with the fire department and everything. And, in combination of working with the police and the 911, it's a well-oiled machine that you're part of. So I just want to thank you for it.
It is, and it's only because of the support of council, so we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so Mr. Mayor, members of council, the next presentation will be provided by Police Chief Newdigate, who's going to give City Council an overview of the fiscal year 26-27 operating budget for the police department.
Welcome, Chief.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. Unfortunately, I have more than 2 slides, so thanks, Jason. Appreciate it. But I think we really only have 5. But just want to acknowledge my team. Of course, I've got my executive aide, Lieutenant Brian Strauss, up there, and 3 of our 4 deputy chiefs, Deputy Chief Zelms, Deputy Chief Wilkerson, and of course, our newest Deputy Chief, Brad Wessler, so promoted last week. So congrats to Brad. And absolutely. And obviously, his time in the 2nd precinct is coming to a close, but we were going to have a very capable and dedicated replacement down there for everyone to interact with. So we'll get into it real quick, talking about PD's budget. So Jada kind of set the tone, talking about recruitment and staffing efforts. At one time, about a little over a year ago, we had closed the vacancy gap in our sworn staffing to about 45 positions. Unfortunately, we are sitting at 86 as of today. So we have definitely went in the wrong direction. I think council has heard me say that, unfortunately, and Jada mentioned it, and we are still on the trail end of a tragic loss for this department. And where we were going in a positive direction, I think that really stalled our efforts, and we lost a lot of men and women that had dedicated their lives to this department that decided that it was time, where they could have done, they had 27 years on and maybe they were going to do 30, and that was the magic number. 27 became that new number. And we actually had officers or potential officers in our recruit classes that resigned, and they said, the realization of how dangerous this job can be has hit home, and we lost productive, active members out of those recruit classes. Now, happy to say that it seems like that attrition has slowed. 86, and we've been about 80 for the last couple of months, and we just had a few retirements. But we want to talk about the efforts, and we have invested a significant amount of time partnering with Studio Center. We took that first initial allotment of funds to partner with a true dedicated recruiting firm out of our asset forfeiture funds to partner with Studio Center, realizing that we are going to the recruiting fairs and we're doing everything that we have done. We're partnering with our city comms folks, but it's not working. We need more. And that's why we sought out a true recruiting firm here locally. And I know that you've all seen our efforts on TV, on social media. Captain Kep tells me that we are seeing about a 15% increase in the number of people that are initially applying. So some positive movement. but we need to make sure that that is going to translate into people that go through the entire process and we get quality people in those seats. So we've really only been partnering with Studio Center for a little over 6 or 7 months. It's going to take us some time to make sure that it's effective. And I think it's actually on the next slide, but these are efforts that I would offer that we're going to need funded for the foreseeable future, that we can't do this as a one and done with Studio Center. Next, Real-Time Crime Center, up and running. We have talked also about drones as a first responder. We are hopeful that it will be up and running sometime in the next 30 days, which will give us that additional situational tool and awareness that we need, starting at the ocean front. I will not belabor. I was just in front of you all. We talked about the great work and the crime reductions that we had in 2025. Our goal is to, on top of the reductions that we saw last year, is another 5% reduction for 2026. We mentioned asking for continued funding for our recruiting initiatives. So I did mention that we took the initial outlay of money out of asset forfeiture. As we all know, asset forfeiture cannot be used for recurring cost. So we're asking this council to please fund us moving forward to help us continue those recruiting efforts. Another piece of funding that we are asking for is the Peregrine software platform. This was also initially funded out of asset forfeiture to make sure that it is a feasible next generation software and that we're getting our return on investment. And what this does is, you can imagine, the police department, we have a tremendous amount of data sets across the spectrum. We are responsible for the creation and ingestion of large amounts of data. And when our officers and our detectives are trying to find a certain individual or a piece of data, they don't have the time nor inclination to go to 20 different data sets and search through that. So what Peregrine has done is ingested our 15 most used populous data sets and allows our officers to go to one-stop solution. And it uses, we're talking about AI, it uses an AI search engine to search across all those different platforms and bring that information to the front, and then also all the companion data. So I will give you a prime example of some of the successes. Is you would not think that 911 and CAD data would be something that our detectives would necessarily be looking at. But what they are telling us is now that CAD data is integrated into the Peregrine platform, that some of the things, some of the individuals that they are looking for are coming up in Jada's CAD data and the call data that we had no idea it was even there. So it's, we're very appreciative that Jada was able to give us the opportunity to ingest that into Peregrine, because it is working for us. And we see a definite need to continue with that platform. So last is the Special Conservators of the Peace. And what we are asking for is to add positions, and these are non-sworn positions with some limited authority in regards to care, custody, and transport of individuals under a temporary detainment order or emergency custody order. And I think you've heard me talk about our system here in the Commonwealth, and I won't say that it's completely broken, but it is dysfunctional in the way that it runs. And many times our officers are, for the, call it what it is, they are babysitting individuals until they are seen, and then a suitable facility is located. And sometimes that means that suitable facility could be in Danville, it could be in Staunton. Just Deputy Chief Zellens was telling me the other day that we transported an individual almost into Kentucky. It was right on the border of Virginia and Kentucky. So that's not where we're set up for, council, is, for us to be sitting and waiting for an individual to get screened and then tell us that we have to transport 4 hours away That is valuable time for the men and women of your police department. So what this does is allow us to hire individuals that are not police officers. They have this limited authority, and then we would entask them with doing some of the care and custody at the pods and also some of this long-distance transport. And what we envision is that will free up your Virginia Beach police officers to do the things in our community that we want and expect them to do. 911 response, traffic enforcement, case investigation, instead of sitting in someone else's city 4 hours away while they're looking to find adequate bed space for an individual suffering from a mental health episode. So I know that we have asked for the positions, and the recommendation of the management labor team, and I do understand it, is for us to take those out of our vacancies. And when we're sitting at 86 vacancies, I definitely understand where the manager's position is. I just need to put it on record that my concern, as always, is that I'm hopeful that at some point we're going to fill those positions and that we're going to need those sworn men and women. And that's all I will say on that one. And when we go back to the special conservators of the peace, just to really make that point, if we look at calls for service for our CIT related runs, they were 3,700 last year out of all of our calls for service, counts for 1.7% of overall calls for service. But the dedicated time that we spend on those CIT calls, and I'm sure EMS can confirm that it is over 10%, and that was for 2025, and that the actual data for 2026, as of right now, it's up to about 12%. So there is a huge need for us to get some help in transporting those ECOs and TDOs, and I think those special conservators of the peace give us an opportunity to do it besides our police officers. And if the program is successful, I do anticipate looking to convert additional positions. Drone program, like I said, we hope it will be up and running, hopefully within about 30 days. The biggest obstacle that we have found is identifying the locations where those drone hives will be located and then working through the MOUs for those individuals. We know how it is when you get the attorneys involved, it takes some time. So, and then the increased revenue, we know where we are with the new school zone program. It's my understanding that 3 of those school zones are up and functional at this time. 3 additional will be up and running in the next month or 2, and then 8 more at the beginning of the new school year. And I will open it up for questions.
Okay, we're going to go Stacy, Michael, Cash. Rosemary, do you have your hand?
Thank you, Chief. I have a couple questions about these special conservator of the peace positions.
Yes, sir.
So these are not sworn. Are these, so I've taken it they're not going to be armed either?
There is an option for them to be unarmed or armed. I don't think that we have made a determination on what that looks like. The program is still in its conceptual phase, so there may be a need to arm them, but it's not yet been decided.
It just seems to me like that's a pretty hazardous kind of position to be in. And then also, if doing that would also require additional vehicles and equipment, I'm assuming.
Yes, sir, it would. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Michael?
Thank you. A few questions, Chief, and also some comments. Let me start with maybe the more difficult one. The Peregrine software data integration system. I think I heard you correctly when you provided an example that the ECCS records will be made available to your detectives and investigators for their review and coordination with any potential investigations or if they're looking for a person. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
So John Smith called 911 and said, my dad's having a heart attack. I need you to come. And they asked him to identify himself. Then John Smith's record would be present. And then from that data, the police department will be able to pull John Smith's whereabouts?
It would give us the information that was captured in that specific call. If he was at a certain location at that certain time, anything that's public record that would be in that CAD data, we can pull. We have access to it now. It's just going to 15 different data sets to run one specific query. Imagine the time that that would take. And what this allows us to do is run a singular query that will now bounce amongst all those 15 different data sets and provide any responses as well as any other companion data that it's attached to. So what we're finding out is it's really a huge time saver for our detectives when they're trying to do an investigation. They're looking for specific data that's already under our control. This is not anyone else's data that we're looking into. It already belongs to the police department or the city of Virginia Beach.
Well, I guess that's where I'm going with this, because based on, and this, you know, shows that potentially I'm not familiar with all the legalities related to the documents as part of 911 or those communications, but just seems to me that there could be some privacy concerns, and that's where you, as you could tell, I was going with that.
Yes, sir.
But a 911 call is a matter of public record in any event.
It is.
All aspects of that call?
Not all aspects. There's certain information that would have to be redacted from a FOIA request, but as part of a criminal investigation, we've had access to that type of data all along. This just allows us to find things that we are looking for that we probably would not have found or put the time into when you're going to 15 different data sets to run a specific query.
Councilmember Bellucci, but to your point, the CAD 911 data, that's basically public information. But the other data sets, like some of them, you're probably thinking like the flock cameras and things like that, the police department does follow all the regulations that were approved by the Commonwealth, including the most restrictive ones that came out of the last General Assembly.
I have no doubt. I have no doubt. I think where I'm getting at in just the broadest strokes is that 911 should be sacred. You know, I use the example of someone's dad having a heart attack. I don't want someone to say, I'm not calling 911 because I don't want you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that's the concern that triggered for me when you raised that. But you know, if it's already a matter of, so I understand, and thank you for the clarification.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad that those tools are available, and if it's publicly accessible information already, then I don't have it. I withdraw my concern.
I think you can.
But I do think people should be free and comfortable to communicate with our 911, especially when there's an emergency. That's important to keep in mind and preserve. The mental health response, I think, is very good. And how does that differ from the mobile co-responder team?
The mobile co-responder team is a combination of police and our crisis intervention officers from the Department of Human Services that will go out into the community and interact with those mental health consumers on a personal basis. But once the decision is made, and usually by one of those clinicians, that we need to take that individual into custody on either an ECO or a TDO from the court, that's when this clock starts ticking. We transport, and then we transport them for usually an additional assessment where they're going to do an overall evaluation of their physical health, and then they start looking for the available bed space. And unfortunately, there is a finite number of bed space for individuals that need mental health and treatment in the Commonwealth, and many times that first available bed could be in Danville. Unfortunately,
oh, I know, yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not in the beach. It's not even close enough in Chesapeake. And then we are driving sometimes 4 hours, sometimes up to 7 hours away to drop someone off and then travel back 7 hours. So it's a very complex, time-consuming process. And I will tell you that it really shocked me when I got to Virginia 5.5 years ago, because the process in Ohio was very simple. I would take them into psych emergency services. There was no question about bed space. There was no sitting with the individual. I signed a statement of belief. I turned them over. It was about a 45-minute process versus sometimes we're doing this for 48 hours.
And I've heard a lot from the officers who are tasked with those responsibilities about how not only exhausting it is for them, but the impact that it has on the agency more broadly and the coverage within the city. So that's a very good and welcome efficiency and development in my mind, and it continues with the prioritization of mental health that I think your agency has really been at the lead of. Two more questions.
Oh, yes, sir.
Oh, wait, sorry.
Councilman, I was just going to say thank you, because I think, when we talk about, and I think it was Jada alluded to the stay interviews, and that's something that, recently came up that we're talking about. But that is one of the top concerns that our officers complain about is the amount of time dedicated to these types of calls. So you talk about a boost for morale. If we can make this happen, I think that's what you're going to see.
I think so too, and I hear that as well from the officers. I want to talk a little bit about community engagement. There was a slide that I think mentioned something, there was some additional funding made available as part of the recruiting and staffing.
Yes, sir.
One of the things that I've seen in the last, I would say 5 years in particular, is an enhanced emphasis on community engagement from the police department.
Thank you.
And I wonder if you could, and that goes to some of your liaison programs that your agency has established and maintained. It goes to presence in the community and at events. It goes to sometimes the vehicles, just a variety of techniques to create relevancy and connection between the police officers and the communities they are tasked with serving. And I think sometimes some people miss the point. And I want to just take an opportunity in this setting, if you could share for anyone who may be interested, why that community engagement is essential not only to public safety, but generally, but also and how it relates to your recruiting and staffing efforts.
Absolutely. Councilman, thank you. And I'm tracking where you're going. So it's incredibly important for us because we are part of the community and we have to be seen as part of the community. We are not an outside force that just comes in and imposes our will and makes an arrest. We have to be seen as part of the solution. And to do that, we have to embrace all different segments of our community, regardless. We don't see one is more important or any less important than another. So it's very important that we can reach out and we identify with all the different individual groups within a community because we need their trust. And I think that's one thing that makes Virginia Beach incredibly special. And when we talk about reduction in Part 1 violent crime, yes, cops make a huge difference. All this technology that I'm asking you for, huge force multiplier. But the one thing that I see in the beach that we didn't have where I came from, and I don't see it in other large cities, is the trust of this community. And that's how we close out some of these big cases, because they trust that we are going to do the right thing and that they can come to us with confidential information. And if we don't have the trust of the community, and how do we do that? We build it through community engagement every day.
Well, I think you do, and the police department in particular is very skilled at this. And it's not only, I think, from where I'm sitting, an operational necessity, but it's the right thing to do. The other aspect of it, as we are continuing to have conversations about building trust and respect between law enforcement professionals and the communities they serve, is that one of the best ways to do that, if not the best way to do that, is to ensure that the men and women of the department reflect the community they serve.
Absolutely.
And in order to do that, so just as you said, the police department is the community. And when that's reflected genuinely, and that's done through that type of engagement that I think the Virginia Beach Police Department has really been a leader in, that not only do we end up with a community that's safer, but we end up with one where people are treated with the dignity they deserve. So thank you for your efforts there. Finally, as we're contemplating recruitment and staffing, the technological changes that you've anticipated, the challenges in retention, I wonder if you could talk about how the current training academy meets the needs that exist presently and that you anticipate for the future.
I would say right now that, we pride ourselves on our training, but when we compare ourselves to other large departments and the facilities that they have, we're woefully lacking. And let's face it, we are competing with every police department in this Commonwealth. And I think that is a critical point that you make, Council Member, that we are looking for every advantage. And when we don't have a 21st century training environment to use to attract new talent to this police department, there's a potential that they're going to go elsewhere. And I think that's why LEDA is critically important, that we can attract new officers to our great city and our great department and continue the world-class training that we provide now. And there are limitations on what we can do in a 60-year-old school building that we're currently in.
I think it's more than 60. I think it's 75 years old. And that's just to say, I think you said 21st century police force is training in a mid-century of the last century elementary school building.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Michael, I don't know if you heard, somebody said we need a leader. We need a leader. Cash in the Mayor.
Thank you, Chief, for your presentation. I was with Regent University today, the police department there, and we were talking prevention about youth crime and in the area, College Park. And so we're always trying to be one step ahead. Our initiative is about youth and how we can plug them in. And so I wanted to, as a way for my staff to get to know the police department at Regent University. They were talking a lot about special conservator of the peace, which I just learned about that, right? And should have been more of that. But when they gave me the information, they were once classified like that before being a
full-fledged police department.
Yes. And so that to me taught me the importance of it. They're not just security guards, and they fall under the Virginia Beach and their tactics and how they perform operational situations. And so that's very important because I was briefed on this today. So I now have a working knowledge of why these positions are very important, different from a security guard, that they may have certain protocols that are different. So having a working knowledge now, I truly appreciate that this is here as a budget change, which is in College Park. I'm grateful that we are going to always stay one step ahead, and each council member is doing that for their district. But I'm just grateful that you have it here in black and white. So I'm on board.
Thank you, Council Member.
Yeah.
Thank you for a great presentation. And
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
no question, all the new technology that you have brought since you have been our police chief has really truly made a difference. And when I'm sure all of us, when we're reading not just our budget, but when we're reading the paper, what the other cities' budgets are doing, we see that the other cities are copying what you have already put in place well ahead. So we're definitely before our time, and thank you for doing all that. So the things that you're asking for today, I know it's at the expense of the vacancies, but that you're authorized to do that with the budget passing. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's in there. All right, that's good to know.
Yes, ma'am. It would be the
And if we get lucky enough to have to fill those positions, I'm sure we'll do something to figure out a way to get there. So
I'm confident that you would. Yes, ma'am.
we're really concerned about that. Well, if we can get those extra positions, we'll do everything we can to get there. Thank you for what you've done and for all the men and women that keep our city safe. We're so proud of you and what you do for us every day, and we're very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Now, Amelia.
Yes, I just wanted to echo one of the things Councilman Belushi brought up about that community engagement. Because people are still asking, they do not know how you were able to round up all those ones from the last event that happened, with the six at the oceanfront. It was like, how did he get all of these young people and in and so forth? Is that trust
Yes, ma'am.
that they felt. So this is shown, and definitely we know we need a leader. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you for your support.
Okay, let me finish up here, Chief, and I guess it's time to jump back on my soapbox a little bit. Localities can't do it by themselves. We need help from the state. We need help from the federal government to not only empower, but to recognize police and give you the tools to need what you got to do. Now, I understand one of the reasons that you couldn't hire retired police officers, to, help with transportation and, staying with people was VRS regulations.
Correct, sir.
That's something that, I think that we could really, kind of look at. Today, I sent a couple news articles to, our city manager, and the first one was out of Chicago. Teens take Chicago streets, and mayor warns that this could be deadly. So we have teen violence going on all over. And then in our friends up in Washington, D.C., fights, arrests during teen spring jam. So what we are encountering is happening everywhere.
Yes.
And it makes news when Virginia Beach happens because it doesn't happen all that often. But I think every municipality in the Commonwealth of Virginia is facing the same thing. I think, Patrick, you told me something, we had an okay weekend, but they had some incidents in Hampton. Okay? But the thing is, we need the tools to do what we need to do. And I think that is incredibly we had our pop-up request, and, it was, denied, but we're going to work on that. We're going to build bridges there. But once again, I think empowering and give you the tools, concerns over civil liberties are important, but by the same token, we're talking about saving lives and, community order and getting rid of chaos and things of that nature. But once again, I think if we empower the police and, once again, I don't care if it's the state level or national level, when we have any discussions above us on taking away qualified immunity, I have a real problem with that. What individual would want to get a job without the protections they need to do their job? And, once again, I know it's a very emotional issue for me, but the folks is we got to work, with our folks in Richmond and Washington, and I think every city has to do that. We need the tools they have to give you the tools to do your job. And, sometimes, it's a tough order to do, and there's going to be some scrutiny, but really it comes down to one thing. What you do for a career, and all the fine folks, you save lives, maintain order, and make communities safe. And I think that's the goal. And I can't think of a better city that's doing it right now than you folks. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Off my soapbox now. Okay, any council liaison reports? Anything? Barbara?
Yes, I attended the most recent committee meeting of the TAITA committee. They're a very vibrant committee, and I got to tell you, there's some interested people there. But I particularly went because I wanted to hear if there was I thought we were in the midst of a study, an update of the ITA area. I think this is the third budget I've been asking about that. And I'm not sure. I think there is a study going on, and I want to know what the scope of it is and what the timeline is, because we need to, if there's some recommendations that we need to get in the budget, and like I say, this is my third year of asking what we can do to get this area up to speed on what we have been planning for decades. So I would really be interested in knowing, is there a study? If there is, where is it in the timeline, and when will we get something that we can do some work on? And I hope that it could be in time to do something from this budget if there's some recommendations.
So, Ms. Hanley, we'll send an update with the timeline and the information again, but the ITA committee is one of the groups that will get briefed as part of what we'll be recommending to the Planning Commission and the City Council.
Well, maybe we need to have a talk.
Okay. Okay, anybody liaison? Okay, any other council comments? No. Amelia and Rosemary.
I was just jotting down that last week we had at the town center, part of that, 3 students, brilliant students, and quite a few of us were there for the scholarship through the CBDA. So it was well attended, and those students really spoke well. And then the little surprise is having the young lady, if you remember, Corey, I'm trying to think of her name, but she was the guest speaker. She did an amazing job. I attended on Saturday the bunny event at Town Center. I got to take a picture with the bunny. We had lots of young people, lots of children. It was from 10 and under. They were out there, very orderly, and it worked well. And there is one other thing. Nope, I didn't write that down. So at least those 2. Yes, there is one. At the Minority Business Council, they're doing their contractors conference on Thursday from 1 to 5 at the Hive. So if anyone would like to come out or see what we do, there are 2 of us that are liaisons. I am, and Councilwoman Rouse.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we're just going to go Hutch, Michael, and Rose.
Hey, so Cash and I both are on the COG grant review board and committee, and we missed each other. I was out of town, and then Cash was out on the second day. So I'm going to basically report on the second day.
Okay.
But one of the things that we had asked for them to do was look at the regional grants, and I think they did a fantastic job. Let me just back up a second. I just would like to recognize Lori Zontini as the chair. She does a phenomenal job, and everybody on the team was very committed. I could tell from being there that they put a lot of thought, and having Joseph and Katie as the 2 city from the budget office. One of y'all might want to head down here when I get started, so I'm going to ask a couple questions or say something. So just a fantastic job in running it and going through all that they did. So the COG met for the second round, and it was 23 interviews. The ask was over, this is the part where I want to make sure I'm saying accurately. I think it was $1.2 million was the ask for the second round. You just give a ballpark, Joseph. Nobody's going to hold you accountable. He's not going to do that.
He likes it to be exact.
While he's looking, we came up with about $358,000, give or take a little bit, as to what we're asking. I can't say who and how it's being split up just yet. Go ahead, Joseph. Did you find it?
Okay, yeah. So in the second round, it was about. I have so many things.
Sorry.
Long process.
It was. Okay, so the second round we had actually 1.6 million in just eligible application requests.
Okay, so thank you. I said 1.2. Okay, big deal. They were asked was for 1.6. So we came up with a lot of discussion, a lot of well thought out issues, and we reviewed the regional grants as we already said, and they advised some to move to COG, and then they also had some that they wanted to move from COG to regional. Correct, Katie? Yep.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. There was about a $19,000 after they went all the way through it. to give out the money. There was about a $19,000 delta where there was a little bit more that we felt very strongly that was needed. In talking with Katie and Joseph, they informed me that as long as we're okay with it, that's within the signature of the manager or the budget director or Kevin. I'd like for everybody to agree that we can go up, because it was like I said, 1.6 million ask, and we came out with 358,000 with a lot of heartfelt discussion to go up just a little bit on their signature to be able to do that.
That's on the COG, not the regional.
COG, that's under the COG, yeah. Yeah.
So, Mr. Hutchinson, you basically, and Katie, Deputy Director James, clarify for me.
Yeah.
So basically, they awarded a certain amount, and then there's a delta between kind of what they would like to be of $16,000, and the goal will be if we can get to that number.
Yes, that's correct. So they had about 350 left to award, 339 left to award, and after they went through that 1.6 million, they just want about another $18,000 to award all of the grants that they wanted to award.
So that's basically, they're trying to get to from like 339 about 360?
Correct.
Okay. So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, I think what Mr. Hutchinson is asking, and I think Mr. Jackson Green is the COG representative as well, is asking, does council mind if we were to give them another $18 million so that they can award to the remaining firms?
18,000.
18,000. That could be something you want to take up in reconciliation, or?
Yeah, they have it. They were telling me that it's under their signature, that it's such a low amount that is something that could just be moved.
And it's the current year, not FY27.
Can't really do it in reconciliation because it's the current year.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, so does council mind if we were to do a budget transfer, and it'll be communicated as we typically do?
You can do a transfer, so we don't have to
Yeah,
take
I
any
think that would be the best way.
Thank you. Sorry for the discombobulated part there. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So if I could just point out that COGS is an important tool that we have. We have so many organizations in this city that, help faith-based and just help organizations that really go out deep into the community and supply a lot of community needs.
It's just unbelievable, really.
It's really unbelievable.
Yeah. It's a lot of good people doing a lot of good work. And the COG group has a very difficult job trying to parcel out the money. That's why when they got to that amount, I just felt like we would be in support of it. So
That's good.
Thank you very much.
Kudos and thank you for helping doing what you do.
Thank you.
Michael, you have something?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have two things as, I guess, council comments and liaison reports. The first is that last Wednesday, Dr. Ross Hammond and I visited the 531 Memorial that's currently under construction. And of course, that is scheduled to be unveiled on May 31. They do have some work to do over there. But it was really incredible. It was an amazing experience with the members of the committee who involved, people who responded to that tragedy, individuals who lost loved ones, city employees, citizens who were impacted. And just once again, want to emphasize how much of privilege it has been to work with the members of that committee, coordinated by Emily LeBeau's in our Cultural Affairs Department. And I'm sure, especially now, I was sure anyway, but especially now having visited the site, the city created a memorial to the individuals who were impacted and whose lives were lost that is worthy of their loss and is worthy of the experience that occurred on May 31st and that individuals have continued to confront since then. It was the worst tragedy in our city's history. And I hesitate to say that anyone would be, well, let me try to rephrase this. It's solemn, it's serious, it's meaningful, it's thoughtful, and I hope that, I know everyone will be there on May 31st who's able, and I welcome the community to that site. It's going to be incredible. So thank you for everything that you did, Patrick, and thanks to Emily LeBeau's and all the citizens who worked very hard to make that a very special place, which it will be. Have you been there? Yeah. Did I say anything that you disagree with?
No, I fully agree with what you said.
And then the next day, or the next day on Thursday, we had a District 3 Community Summit, which was a little different than a traditional town hall. It was something of a mini retreat for District 3 residents and business owners, and was facilitated by professional city staff, many of whom have other responsibilities, very serious responsibilities in other areas. I'm so excited to get the report. I know they're working on that now, but it was a chance for citizens to directly shape the priorities for our district and also inform how I represent their priorities sitting around this table and in our chambers. And they did a really, really great job. And I really want to thank them. Monica Krosky, Nancy Bloom, each and every one of the city staff who were there, and all those who participated. It was really good, and I thank all involved.
Thank you, Michael. Anybody else? Rosemary?
Just wanted, I can't go without saying that the voucher parking program is up and running, so I think you go to the virginiabeach.gov page and you can find the link to get to it. So those of you that would like the $50 with the free parking can go sign up.
Okay, just a final thing. I want to thank the folks in Economic Development. We hosted a defense contractors forum at the Vibe. It was incredibly well attended. But let me tell you what a remarkable job we're doing getting, really key defense contractors, which is very important to our nation right here in Virginia. Kudos to your staff, Patrick. Okay, let's do the consent agenda.
Okay, so the only speakers that we have for the ordinances is for number 2. Is there anything else that anybody wants to be pulled or comment on? Stacy?
I'd like to comment on it. There's been recent concern about the price of what we're spending to acquire this property. And, it seems excessive, and on the face of it, I would tend to agree it's a lot of money for what we're spending to acquire this property. But, what we need to also think about is how valuable this land is, not just in monetary value, but as it relates to what the city's been trying to create in this area for quite some time, a nature preserve. And we, in this area, we have the Brock Environmental Center, we have the Environmental Study Program, we have Pleasure House Point, where we're doing the wetlands mitigation there, surrounded by 110 acres of parkland. And this property is sitting in a strategic spot that would just denigrate everything that we're trying to create there. So when you look at the city assessment of $152,000 and thinking, why are we paying 2.6 for this? It's just not applicable. This is a piece of property that is in a strategic spot. The owner of this property, by right, can develop this. We would have housing in the middle of this park, this nature preserve, that is just a valuable, valuable asset to the city. It's just one of the, will be, already is, but it's going to be an incredible preserve of wetlands, park area. People are already using this area as a park. They consider it their own. A price that you pay is not dependent upon what a third party values it at all the time. The price is when you have a willing seller and a desperate buyer. And if we don't buy this piece of property, it's going to be an eyesore, a thorn in what we've tried to create out there for forever. The seller has done the math. They've said this is what we can make by developing this property, and we're willing to sell it for what we could make on the development, and we're stuck. Maybe we should have bought this property 10, 15, 20 years ago, but we didn't. It's available now. It's at a high price, but I think it's a good investment. I just received an email from a constituent, well, it's not even a constituent, he lives in Norfolk, but he came up with some really great points that I had been struggling with the ways to articulate. A gentleman by the name of Ian Blair from Wetlands Watch. And he emailed and said, given the rising sea level concerns that we have, that this investment is forward planning, builds long-term resilience, maintains critical coastal habitat, and protecting them now is an investment in the functioning of our coastal ecosystem for decades to come. So to look at this transaction and just say that the city is way overpaying for a piece of property, and what value does it, it's that valuable to us? I believe it is. I believe that we're going to look back on this investment years from now, and we're going to have one of the great nature preserves on the East Coast, if not in the entire nation, and people will be enjoying this park. Our kids, our grandkids will be using this piece of property in eternity. So I do think it's a lot of money to pay. I do think it's a hefty price. I don't think that, equating the price that we're paying to an assessment or to somebody's, outside person's opinion is relevant. I think that if we don't do it, that the downside would be tough. People would be coming out of the woodwork saying, why didn't you buy it when you had the opportunity?
I just want to add on, I agree 1,000% with Councilman Cummings on this topic, and I want to just say congratulations and thanks to the Open Space Committee and Councilmember Schulman, I guess you as well, Councilman Cummings, on putting us where we are. This is a very valuable piece of property to us that we do need to add to the Brock Center, and there's a playground to the north of it. It's just it would just be really bad if we lost control of it. So look forward to voting yes for this.
Okay, we're going to be polling it, okay?
Yes, and we also want to make sure people know that we're getting some very hefty grants to help with the offset the cost.
500 grand.
Yes, which wouldn't happen if it wasn't well-deserved. Anything else?
That's it.
And I just want to add that Councilman Schulman did a yeoman's job.
Yeah.
Sure did.
And
he'll be here.
He'll be here by 6 o'clock, but he has done an amazing job and worked really long and hard, and he deserves a lot of credit for this. Okay,
Is that it?
that's it.
Okay, moving along, the chair will entertain a motion to recess into a closed session pursuant to the exemptions from open meetings allowed by section 2.2, 3711A Code of Virginia as amended for the following purposes. Legal matters. Consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by the public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provisions of legal advice, counsel pursuant to section 2.2, 3711A8, and that is TC Hotel LLC, Hampton Inn and Development Agreement, public contract. Discussions of an award of a public contract involving the expenditure of public funds and discussion of the terms or scope of such contract where discussions in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining positions or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to section 2.2, 3711A29, town center parking, and then personnel matters, discussions, considerations, interviews, prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performers, demotion, salaries, disciplining or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of any public body pursuant to section 2.2, 3711A1, and that's council appointments for boards, commissions, committees, authorities, agencies, and appointees. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Councilmember Berluci?
Aye.
Councilmember Cummings? Aye. Councilmember Henley?
Aye.
Councilmember Hutchinson? Aye. Councilmember Green?
Aye.
Councilmember Remick?
Aye.
Councilmember Altiana?
Aye.
Councilmember Rowell? Aye. Councilmember Shulman? Absent. Vice Mayor Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Dyer?
Aye.
10-0.
Okay, we are recessed into close, and I think I call it to order, and if we could all, if you are willing to stand for the invocation. Heavenly Father, creator of everything good, thank you for this opportunity to be with you. Please give this council the courage, the commitment, and the integrity to do the city's work in a most noble way. And may we also pray for all those of our military, especially from this region, who are in harm's way. Empower them to do will, and may bless the city of Virginia Beach and this great nation. For this we pray. Thank you. And if we may have a moment of silence for all those who have paid the ultimate price to defend our nation and our city. Thank you. And the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Madam Clerk, we have a roll call.
Yes, Your Honor. All present, excluding Councilmember Henley, who is absent, and Councilmember Shulman, who is just running a few minutes late.
Okay. Could I have a motion for the certification of the closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Votes open.
1 second. The vote is open. By a vote of 9-0, you've certified the closed session to be in accordance with the motion to recess.
Okay. Could I have an approval for approval of the minutes for the informal and formal sessions of March 17th, 2026, the formal session of March 24, 2026, and the special formal session of March 24, 2026?
Move for approval. Second.
Okay.
The vote is open. By a vote of 9-0, you've approved the minutes as submitted.
Okay, one of the special things we do here at City Council during our meetings is to honor people who deserve honor. And at this point, we're going to call up a dear friend who has served our military and the city of Virginia Beach so well. And Captain David L. Gray, United States Navy, will you please come forward? Right behind the podium. You're going to be speaking shortly. Put you on the spot. Welcome to the club. Okay. Resolution, whereas Captain David L. Gray is a native of Massachusetts and enlisted in the United States Navy as an engineman in August of 1990, with his first assignment being on board the USS Gunston Hall, LSD-44. And then in 1996 was selected for a Seaman to Admiral program, commissioned on June 7, 1996. And whereas following his commission, Captain Gray attended Surface Warfare Division Officer School in Newport, Rhode Island. And whereas Captain Gray earned a bachelor's degree in science and psychology from Old Dominion University and a Master of Arts degree in national security and strategy from the Naval War College in Newport, Rhode Island. And whereas his sea duty assignments included serving as communications officers against the USS Stout, DDG-55, weapons officer on the USS Typhoon, PC-5, first lieutenant on board the USS Ponce, LPDD-15, and USS Nassau as executive officer on the USS Ashland, LSD-48. And whereas Captain Gray transferred USSA Ashland from extended docking phase maintenance availability through the Board of Inspection and Survey, making her ready for the whole swamp to Japan during his EXO tour when he was selected for commander and completed a command tour aboard the USS Whitney Island and commanded the new Expeditionary Sea Base class warship USS Herschel Woody Williams. And whereas his shore duty assignments include serving as the Deputy N7 Surface Warfare Directorate, N31 for Maritime Operations, Chief Staff Officer afloat for Training Group Atlantic, N1, and ComNav Surfland. I got that pretty good, yeah. Staff south of Joint Staff Hampton Roads, and GMF as the JWG Waterside Lead, Rotation Branch Chief and Joint Force Coordinator Division Chief, Commanding Officer of the Navy Expeditionary Warfare Development Center in Virginia Beach. And whereas Captain Gray's last assignment as Commanding Officer of the Joint Expeditionary Base at Little Creek, Fort Story in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Whereas Captain Gray's awards include the Defense Superior Service Medal, the Legion of Merit, the Meritorious Service Medal, the Joint Service Commendation Medal, the Navy Commendation Medal, and the Navy Achievement Medal and various unit and service awards. Whereas, having created an enduring legacy exemplified by his leadership, Captain Gray relinquished command of the Joint Expeditionary Base, Little Creek, Fort Story on February 27, 2026, and will always be known to exemplify the finest traditions of the United States Navy as an officer, a gentleman, a gallant warfighter, passionate motorcycle rider, caretaker of the military members, and a friend. Now, therefore, be resolved that the City of Virginia Beach Council pauses in its deliberations to recognize Captain David L. Gray, to thank him for his meritorious service to the Navy, our country, and our city. Now it be further resolved that all citizens recognize Captain Gray's exemplary military service. On this day, it's commemorated as Captain David L. Gray Day, given by the City Council of Virginia Beach, the 7th day of April, 2026, and present the resolution duly signed by each member of the Virginia Beach City Council. I'll be right there. That's a lot of good stuff. Thank you. Now time for the shameless photo opportunity.
Thank you. Test one. I want to say thank you very much. This is a very prestigious honor. I really was not expecting this. I don't. You mentioned so much stuff in my bio, sir. That's what 36 years will get you, is a long, lengthy bio, and a lot of stuff. So all I want to say is thank you so much for your guys' support during my tenure as CEO of Little Creek Base, Fort Story, and I want to thank everybody in the audience for being great citizens. For the youngins out there, when I started in the Navy, I didn't have any guidance. The military helped me find myself, helped me find discipline, and helped me to make the good citizen that I am today. So my advice is to you is to do a little time in the military and get yourself, find your niche and go from there. So and then come back, be great citizens in the great city of Virginia Beach. So thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate this award. I am very honored and humble. And I am really glad my wife's not here to hear it's David Gray Day, because she said his head is fat enough as it is. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
Let me say this to you, Dave. everything is about relationships. And what makes Virginia Beach such a great city is the fact that we have such a proud and stout military presence. We have a significant amount of military history. You know, Virginia Beach is a city of heroes, and they live among us. They are the spouses, they are the warriors that are here. And we can't thank you enough for everything you've done. And I'm gratified for the fact that you're staying in the area and the relationships will continue. But, we're really proud of the fact that over the years that we've had a seamless continuum of excellence in leadership at Little Creek, Oceana, Dam Neck. We are so proud of our naval tradition right here in Virginia Beach. You helped define and make Virginia Beach the great city it is. Thank you and God bless you. See you around.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, Cash Green, you're on deck.
All right. Am I going to have the Mustangs line up as I read the resolution, or read it first, then have them line up? Will the Virginia Beach Mustangs come forward behind the podium? I'm going to be speaking to you. Oh, is that Bruce Pearl? That is Bruce.
My goodness, that's half the gallery.
That's Coach Pearl. Chief Hutch said he played on this team. Scooch in, scooch in, scooch in. Very good, very good. All right. Whereas the Virginia Beach Mustangs Youth Football Organization is a program that has become a cornerstone of youth development in Virginia Beach, and whereas the Virginia Beach Mustangs started in Pop Warner in 2001, winning the national championship in its first year. Wow. And become part of the United Youth Football League, UYFL, in 2021. Over the past 25 years, the Mustangs have won 10 national championships and have become the standard of youth football in Virginia. The organization now serves over 1,000 children each year with a variety of training, conditioning, and game seasons. The mission of the Mustangs has always been to provide structure, discipline, and positive mentorship while keeping our youth active, engaged, and on the right path. And whereas the Mustangs organization was founded by Sidney Pops Pearl and his son Bruce Pearl. Sidney started his coaching with the Woodstock Mustangs in 1965. Pops passed away in November 2021. His legacy continues with Pops being printed on all jerseys and a prestigious award named after him being given to one special player of each team at the annual banquet. And whereas former Mustang players include gold medal winners at the Olympics in the track, Grant Holloway, Quincy Wilson, NCAA national champion winner in wrestling, Bubba Jenkins, and former NFL players Scotty McGee, Mr. Boyd, Percy Harvins, Eli Hurd, and Matt Derby, just to name a few. And whereas in December 2025, the Mustangs sent 3 teams to Plant City, Florida, to compete in the national championship game, the 10U and the 12U. Teams won the championships with the 12U becoming back-to-back champions. All fought with heart, discipline, and unity. And whereas
The teams were led by an exceptional coaching staff who exemplified leadership both on the field and off the field. 10U head coach Curtis Stewart, 10U coach Justin Whitney, 10U coach Greg Williams Sr., 10U coach Tavon Gatlin, 12U coach Bruce Pearl, 10U coach Teron Franklin, 12U coach Keith Pearl, 12U coach Dave Stewart, 12U coach DJ Desmeyer, 12U coach Josh Henderson, 12U coach Brentley Zachary. I'm almost done. You guys are doing great. Okay. Whereas beyond the wins and statistics, the Mustangs represent hope, resilience, and opportunity. Many of the athletes face challenges, life circumstances, and this program provides them with mentorship, structure, and a positive outlet that reinforces the belief that there is more to life than that the success is achieved through hard work and dedication. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the members of the City Council, both individually and collectively, extend their heartfelt congratulations and commendations to the Virginia Beach Mustangs for their outstanding dedication, sportsmanship, and success both on and off the field. Go Mustangs! One more. Given by the council on the city of Virginia Beach, Virginia, the 7th day of April, 2026, and present this resolution duly signed by each member of the Virginia Beach City Council. Done. Now we're going to come and join you for picture.
No.
Okay. Are you guys coming?
I'll stand up here. This is so crowded.
We'll stand behind you. We'll stand behind you.
Okay. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Congratulations, guys.
You're in the front.
You're in the other seat. Yeah, come on over. The front door. That's how you make sense. Okay.
Look at it. Just on this side, swing towards me.
Which side?
There you go. That's good. Come in closer.
Perfect. All right, everybody keep looking right here. I'm going to take about 5,000 photos, so no blinking is allowed. Come on, recharge. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
First of all, on behalf of the Virginia Beach Mustangs, I don't know why Bruce put me on the microphone, but we want to say thank you to the kids and players, other coaches. Outstanding job this year, and we want to keep moving forward and continue doing what we do. And once again, City Council, we really appreciate this. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a bunch. Thanks a bunch, well deserved. We're looking at the future, folks.
No pen? Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll see you later.
Okay, folks, we're going to move forward. First thing we're going to do is have a public hearing on the lease of the property, approximately 7 acres at 928 South Burdeck Road, to Virginia Pickleball Classic.
We have one speaker, Jim Aldrich.
Okay, not going to speak? Okay, we're good.
He's not speaking, okay. Then there's no speakers.
Okay, now we're going to go to the cafe franchise agreements. I will read all of them. First is CETA Incorporated, Ray Sidewalk Cafe. Next is Calabrese Management Group, Ray Sidewalk Cafe. Next is Muller Liquid Assets 2 LLC, Ray Sidewalk Cafe. D, Corey LLC, Ray Sidewalk Cafe. E, Igna Milt Inc., Sidewalk Cafe. Next is Planet Pizza, Sidewalk Cafe. Next is Curly LLC, Sidewalk Cafe. H, next is ANSI Incorporated, Sidewalk Cafe. Next is K&M Inc., Sidewalk Cafe. Next is Happy Meals LLC, Sidewalk Cafe. Next is Virginia Beach Raw Bar, Sidewalk Cafe. Next is EEE LLC, Sidewalk Cafe. And then Thirsty 24 LLC, Sidewalk Cafe. We're getting there. Next is Virginia George Company, Sidewalk Cafe. Next is Grill Virginia LLC, Sidewalk Cafe. Next is Me Vita Virginia Beach LLC, Sidewalk Cafe. Next is Las Palmas Boardwalk Corporation, Sidewalk Boardwalk Cafe. Next is Beachside LC, Boardwalk Cafe. Next is 3001 Atlantic LLC, Boardwalk Cafe. Next is 3315 Atlantic LLC, Ray Boardwalk Cafe. And finally, Harrison, Virginia Beach North, SPE LLC, Boardwalk Cafe. That concludes it. Any
No speakers, sir.
No speakers?
No speakers.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and read the speaker's policy, and then we'll do the consent
Sorry,
agenda.
Mayor, we have 2 more public hearings.
Pardon?
You have 2 more public hearings.
Oh, 2 more public, oh my goodness, okay. Sorry about that. The acquisition by agreement, a condemnation of Rosemont Road and South Plaza Trail intersections improvement, project CIP 1004-23022.
No speaker, sir.
All right, and the last one, acquisition by agreement or condemnation, Lakeview Drive Channel Improvements Project CIP 100405 and 100662.
There are no speakers, sir.
Okay, at this point, I'll read the speaker's script, and then we'll do the consent agenda. I want to remind everyone that the City Council speaker policy that allows certain representatives of groups to speak for 10 minutes applies only to planning items. All other speakers, while speaking individually or on behalf of a group, will have up to 3 minutes to speak on a single item. Speakers are reminded that comments during the formal session of the meeting must be limited to the subject of the item that you're being considered by the council at the time you are called. For items placed on the consent agenda, the speaker will have up to 3 minutes to address any single item. If the speaker wishes to address multiple consent items, the speaker will have a cumulative total of 6 minutes to address those items. Again, the speaker must limit his or her comments to the subject matter of the items they have signed up to address. And finally, I call upon all speakers and all persons in the chamber to be civil in their discussions and decorum. Whatever views you hold and wish to express, the City Council wants to hear from you and to ensure that all viewpoints and all persons are respected. The best way to do this is for all of us to strive for civility and respect. Okay, at this point, do we have the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Under ordinances, number 1 is the ordinance to authorize the city manager to execute a lease agreement with Virginia Pickleball Classic LLC for city-owned property at 928 South Birdneck Road, Ray Pickleball Facility. Number 3 is the ordinance to donate to the Powhatan County Sheriff's Department, Virginia, Ray 75 taser ×2 handles and accessories. Number 4 is the ordinance to accept and appropriate $215,231.70 from the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services to the FY 2025-26 Human Services Operating Budget, Ray Step Virginia Service Enhancements. Number 5 is the ordinance to accept and appropriate $23,055.20 from the Virginia Office of Emergency Medical Services to the FY 25-26 Department of Emergency Medical Services Operating Budget, Ray Training Programs and Courses. Number 6 is the ordinance to accept and appropriate $5,000 from the Virginia State Police HEAT Program, FY 2025-26 Police Department Operating Budget to Ray reducing motor vehicle theft and related crimes. And last but not least, 7, ordinance to transfer $3.2 million within the FY 2025-26 Department of Public Works operating budget, Ray capital outlays. Move for approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Let's vote on it.
The vote is open. By a vote of 10 to 0, you approve the consent agenda as read by Vice Mayor Wilson.
Okay, we do have one item to discuss, and that is K2. Ordinance to authorize the acquisition of 5 lots totaling approximately 0.57 acres adjacent to Crab Creek and near Pleasure House Point Natural Area from Riverwalk LLC. Authorize the city manager to execute 2 grant agreements and accept and appropriate grant funds in the amount of $300,000 to CIP 100641, open space acquisition for Ray property preservation.
The first speaker is Christy Everett. After Ms. Everett will be Diana Howard.
Good evening.
Evening. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. My name is Christy Everett. I serve as the Hampton Roads Director of the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. Appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight in strong support of council's action regarding conservation of the Crab Creek lots at Pleasure House Point. This vote is critically important to protecting the integrity of one of Virginia Beach's most valued and recreational spaces. While the parcel may appear small on its own, there are still other parcels that remain unprotected. The protection of this parcel plays an outsized role in preserving the character of the broader Pleasure House Point site and preventing further development along the waterfront. This action by council is especially welcome because without it, this area could have been developed up to 10 duplexes or as many as 5 single-family homes, likely with site design 6 duplexes or 3 single-family homes. Instead of development, the council is choosing conservation, public access, and long-term community benefit. This land is a study area for the adjacent City of Virginia Beach Environmental Studies program, which hosts students from high schools all over Virginia Beach. Some of the students are taking time from their spring break to be here tonight. Students Talis, Anna, and Nate. I'm not sure if they want to stand or if you recognize. There's Anna. Thank you for coming. As City of Virginia Beach Open Space Advisory Committee recognized, it's a space that supports outdoor recreation, hands-on education, and a deeper connection to Virginia Beach waterways for residents and visitors alike. CBF and many others have been asking for protection for this for years. The council's action represents a missing piece of the puzzle to get this portion preserved, completing efforts to secure and preserve the portion of the broader Pleasure House Point site for future generations. While preserving land can have a high opportunity cost, report after report demonstrates it's highly valued by communities, and the value that the site plays in flood protection alone is a wise investment for City of Virginia Beach. Council's decision also leverages grant funds from the Commonwealth of Virginia through both the Virginia Outdoors Foundation and the Virginia Land Conservation Foundation grant sources. Though modest in size, this parcel is essential in maintaining the park's continuity, ecological value, and public access. On behalf of Chesapeake Bay Foundation and our partners, I thank you for your leadership in recognizing the long-term value of protecting this special place for current and future Virginia Beach residents. And if you'll allow me one more minute, I have a comment from Wetlands Watch, who could not be here tonight.
Okay, have to do it in your time limit.
Yes, it was still within my time limit, yes. Wetlands Watch supports this proposed acquisition. Virginia Beach is no stranger to the cost of rising seas and increased flooding. Preserving these 5 lots near Pleasure House Point Natural Area is exactly the kind of proactive, forward-looking planning that builds long-term resilience. Once land is developed, the natural co-benefits disappear and risk increases. Opportunities like this don't come back. These parcels matter for several reasons. They protect critical coastal habitat and help maintain water quality in the Lynnhaven River. They expand public access to natural spaces as part of the city that is already under significant development pressure. And perhaps most importantly for the long term, they give coastal wetlands somewhere to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you
The
for
next
coming.
speaker is Diana Howard. After Ms. Howard is Karen Verget.
Hey, Diana, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good.
Good. I had to come down here to ask one question. How in the world would you come up with $2.5 million for a half acre of property? Where did that come from, right? Is that a good use of our money? I mean, how much money do we have in open space? I'm sorry Ms. Henley isn't here because I would ask her what she was thinking of this. Because if that's the assessed value of a half acre of property in Virginia Beach, I can't imagine what it's going to look like for people that have a house on a half acre when they get their assessment and the increase in their property taxes this year. And so I hope you're working on reducing the real estate rates, because that $80 is not going to touch it.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Karen Verget, and then we have one WebEx speaker.
Hello.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council members. I'm Karen Forget, and I'm the Director of LR Now in Virginia Beach, and I'm here to speak in support of the acquisition of the open space adjacent to Crab Creek and close to the Pleasure House Point Natural Area. First, this area is already important and actively used by the public, by hikers, by bird watchers, and especially by fishermen and fisherwomen. Secondly, it is also very important habitat. Maintaining this shoreline in a natural condition supports both wildlife and good water quality. Third, Crab Creek drains directly into the Lynnhaven River and the Chesapeake Bay and helps support the adjacent wetlands and vital oyster reefs that contribute to a healthy Lynnhaven River. Lastly, it is a very good use of our open space funds. Access to natural areas is important to the well-being and the health of our citizens, and this open space happens to be in one of the most densely populated parts of our city and has been carefully vetted by the Open Space Committee. On behalf of the wildlife, the birds, the oysters, the wetlands, and the humans, I support this acquisition of open space. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming, Karen.
Mayor, we have one WebEx speaker, Ronna Marsh. You are unmuted and may begin.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I learned about this $2.6 million open space acquisition yesterday, and I have to say I'm really taken aback that land that the assessor had assessed all 5 lots in total at $152,000. So it was greatly underassessed, and we've been missing tax collections. What I'm not understanding is why it's now $2.6 million. And it does seem that if Councilman Schulman, who received a donation from, I believe, the developer in the amount of $1,000, was he really the best person to negotiate this? Council should be recusing themselves from voting for ordinances involving donors who they've contributed to in their campaigns. So we should avoid conflicts of interest and maintain impartiality. And this is crucial for ensuring public trust. But we have Vice Mayor Wilson got $7,500 from this developer. Mayor Dyer, it appears you got $3,000. Ross Hammond got $1,500. Cash Jackson Green got $1,000, and Schulman got $1,000. So what we're looking at are people who are going to vote on this to give a developer $2.6 million consideration, and 5 of them should be recusing themselves because we don't have impartiality. And as a citizen who is hearing that we don't have money, that we're short money, we need 86 more police officers, there's so many things we need. Is this really the best use of our tax dollars at this particular moment in time for a developer who's given hundreds of thousands of dollars in campaign donations? I'm just very questioning about the common sense, and is this wise with our tax dollars? And it doesn't seem like there's much concern for anyone except developers in the city. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Mayor, that's all the speakers, sir.
Okay, Mr. Schulman, you have been a stalwart in pushing this, and for all the right reasons. Could you kindly explain?
Yes, sir. Would you mind if I made a motion to approve it, get a second,
Yes.
and then I'll talk about it?
Let's go ahead and do that first.
I will go ahead and make a motion to approve this item.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
And thank you, Mayor. And I also want to just say, in a testament to how complicated each and every one of our lives are up here and everybody else out there, I drove 14 hours to be here, which is why I'm sorry I wasn't able to be here with all of you earlier today. But and I really felt like I was kind of sliding into third base. But I drove 14 hours to say thank you. Because number one, I want to say thank you to y'all, because you are supportive of this, and this is something that each and every one of you know that we've been working towards for the last 3 years, and we've not been alone. We've been with it through community members who have come and spoke. I want to say thank you to the students who've come here on spring break, because that's why I slid into third base, is because my kids we were in Orlando. And we missed some flights, but thank you to the people who wrote grants to obtain money for this property, because Ocean Park and the Bayfront in general and the northern part of our city, we have challenges there with respect to trying to balance growth responsibly, respect neighborhoods and our environment at the same time. This is open space money well spent, because this is in an effort to conserve property that is and was under threat of development. There are people who supported those grant applications, and it was also supported by our Open Space Advisory Committee that vetted this property along with others that are priority conservation candidates. As much as we would love to conserve every property that we can that is under the threat of development, we have limited resources. So I think, and I'm sad Miss Howard left, and I really enjoyed talking with Miss Howard. She's a very nice lady, and if she were still here, I'd tell her we have about $16 million in our open space fund. And I believe, and I hope we believe, that this is a responsible use of that money, because I would never come ask for public dollars absent some effort or attempt to get third-party money, which we thankfully did in the form of grant money, with the community vetting that we did with the Open Space Advisory Committee. And then with the community support that we've gotten, thank you, Christy, for coming, and thank you, Karen, for coming, from the Chesapeake Bay Foundation and the Lynn Haven River Now, and to our students. This property, saving it, will preserve the viewshed between the Environmental Studies program and the Lynn Haven River and the Lesnar Bridge. This property is property that most people think is public already, and this property will help protect the investments that we've made behind it, including in the Chesapeake Bay Foundation property, Pleasure House Point, and the Environmental Studies program. So I'm here to say thank you, and I'm here to make a motion to approve this, and I hope I have everybody's support.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, let's open a vote.
The vote is open. Councilmember Ross Hammond, thank you. By a vote of 10-0, you've approved the ordinance.
Okay, thank you. No appointments? Okay, no appointments. Okay, at this point, let's go ahead and recess into open mic. And I want to thank you all in the gallery for coming out tonight.